the orange power button. Yep.
That's all. It's gonna get hot here. Just tell you.
You turn it? You not turn it? So it blows it on?
No, because you'd have to close the mouths.
That's nice.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order this meeting of September 23rd Board of Selectmen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so we'll start tonight with our public service announcements.
Okay, first thing we have is certificates of recognition for the Chelmsford 10 and under baseball team and the Chelmsford 11 and under baseball team in honor of winning.
Invite them in.
Yeah, can we ask the baseball teams to come in? Sure.
Oh, okay.
Mics aren't loud. It's green. Yeah, keep coming in. You can move to the other side of the room if that helps. Just fill it up.
Stand in front of me.
Yep. Two rows, two rows. And make sure we see the trophy. Yeah, put it up on the table. Perfect.
There you go, boys. Good job. Come on in, guys.
Keep coming.
Keep coming, guys. Make 2 rows, 3 rows. It doesn't matter.
Double up, boys. Double up. There you go.
That everybody?
I think we're good.
Okay. We know what everybody came for this evening, is to see these baseball players. All right, so this is a certificate of recognition presented to the Chelmsford 10 and under baseball and 11 and under baseball teams in honor of winning the Cal Ripken Eastern Massachusetts State Championship. Your strong work ethic and commitment to teamwork bring great credit upon you, your families, and the town of Chelmsford. Awarded this 23rd day of September 2019, and it's signed by the Board of Selectmen and sealed by the town clerk, Patricia Zuras. Congratulations, guys. So,
All done. Let's see. First we have the U10. Congratulations. Thank you. Yep. We have the 11. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Good job, guys.
Thank you.
You guys want to say a few words or anything? No?
Mike. Thank you guys very much. We really appreciate this. This is obviously a team effort. All of us are here. This is the way our team kind of rolls. We go everywhere together as a team. You know, these guys do as well. So congrats to the 10s, congrats to the 11s. honestly, it's congrats to the whole Chelmsford Youth Baseball organization. We've put together a really strong program over the years, and it's kind of it's a culmination of a lot of hard work by a lot of volunteers, and there's been a lot of success lately, and we're just lucky to kind of go along for the ride. So thank you all very much.
You're welcome. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Good luck.
Enjoy the rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
Yep.
Should be.
Thank you.
How do you say that word?
Charlie, will you swing that door shut? Thank you. Okay.
I'm going to ask if there's anybody here for it.
Oh, is there anybody here for the Art on the Brook that would like to speak? Nobody? Okay.
All right, the Center Village Master Plan Implementation Committee is sponsoring the first annual Art on the Brook, which will feature exciting handicrafts and artwork of over 50 local creative vendors, as well as artisanal food from area cooks, bakers, and restaurants, and live music provided by local artists. The Artisans Exchange and the Center Village Master Plan Implementation Committee of Chelmsford announced its first annual Art on the Brook Festival. This event will be the first of its kind to be held in the historic downtown Chelmsford area located on the Beaver Brook Walk behind the Artisans Exchange at 24 Central Square. So this is going to happen on Saturday and Sunday, October 5th and 6th, from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Again, Art on the Brook, behind the Artisans Exchange in the center. Sounds like an exciting event.
Okay, the next one we have is for Neshoba Valley Technical School District 50th anniversary. Is there anybody here?
There's 3 people
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, would you like to stand up and say anything, or
You want me to read it?
you want to read it first?
Good evening. I'm Denise Pigeon, the superintendent for Neshoba Valley Technical School District. Joined with me, I have Dawn Ayer and Lawrence McDonald, 2 of our representatives to the school committee. I just want to say thank you for putting us on your agenda this evening, and thank you for your ongoing support. Very special year for Neshoba Tech. We're celebrating 50 years, our 50-year anniversary, and we just wanted to say thank you for 50 years of partnership with the town of Chelmsford. We're so proud to be your skills-focused technical high school, your public technical high school. Would you like us to read the proclamation?
I think, Pat, do you want to read it? You want them to read it?
I can read it.
Great.
I'll read it
Thank
for you. Okay, whereas the Neshoba Valley Technical School District, which opened its doors to students in 1969, continues to proudly partner with our district member towns of Ayer, Chelmsford, Groton, Littleton, Pepperell, Shirley, Townsend, and Westford to provide a public vocational technical education with the skills advantage. And whereas Neshoba Valley Technical School District provides the highest quality academic and technical education possible to prepare our students for college and career paths leading to success in an ever-changing technological world. And whereas Neshoba Valley Technical School District strives to promote citizenship through a safe and inclusive atmosphere, encouraging a diverse population of students to become positive and productive members of the community. And whereas Neshoba Valley Technical School District meets and exceeds the rising need for technical education at the high school and postgraduate levels, and continues to enhance and expand its curriculum to meet the needs of the ever-changing workforce, to meet labor market demands, including courses in advanced manufacturing, dental assisting, design and visual communications, health assisting, and veterinary education, as well as engineering, robotics, biotechnical fields, and programming and web development. And whereas Neshoba Valley Technical School District continues to provide quality vocational education in traditional fields such as automotive technology and auto collision repair, carpentry, cosmetology, culinary, early childhood education, electrical, hospitality, plumbing, marketing, and television theater arts. And whereas Neshoba Valley Technical School District continues to partner with local business and industry as advisory members to enhance the planning and operations of our technical programs and a continued cooperative placement work-based learning experiences for our students, creating future workforce pipelines. And whereas Neshoba Valley Technical School District enhances technical education with rigorous academic preparedness, meeting or exceeding the guidelines set forth by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and formally designated as an early college high school by the Massachusetts Department of Education by providing students with the opportunity to earn college credits while enrolled. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that the town of Chelmsford, Massachusetts recognizes and celebrates 50 years of excellence at Neshoba Valley Technical High School during the 2019 and 2020 school year. Signed this 23rd day of September 2019, signed by the Board of Selectmen and sealed by Patricia Zuris. It hasn't been sealed yet either, so we need to have that taken care of.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations. All right, so next we have the Board of Health 6th Annual, doing that one next, the 6th Annual Candlelight Overdose Vigil. Is there anybody here from the Board of Health? Nope. So Pat, do you want to read that one?
Sure. Okay, this coming Sunday, September 29th, will be the 6th Annual Candlelight Overdose Vigil, which will be held on the town common. This is a night to remember loved ones who lost their battle with substance abuse disorder and to support those in recovery. The event begins at 6:30 with the signing of names of the loved ones who have been lost, and at 7 o'clock the actual event begins. This is in memory of those who have lost along the way, and lighting a flame to remember them So we hope to see you. This is an event on a common, sixth annual. It's unfortunate that we still have to have this. This still continues, but it is a very moving event. I encourage everyone to attend. And I guess I'll do the flu vaccine then too.
Please.
All right. Chelmsford Board of Health sponsored flu clinics. The Board of Health is going to hold the following flu clinics at the Chelmsford Senior Center on Wednesday, October 16th from 3:30 to 7 p.m. From 3:30 to 4:30 is for those age 65 and over. The high-dose formula will be available. And from 4:30 to 7 for those ages 3 and older. Everyone regardless of age must bring your health insurance cards. At Chelmsford Town Hall, 50 Billerica Road, on Tuesday, November 12th, from 4 to 7 p.m. The high-dose formula will be available for those ages 3 and older. And again, everyone must bring their health insurance cards. And the Board of Health will also be holding school-based flu clinics at Chelmsford High School, McCarthy, and Parker Schools on Tuesday, October 22nd. Information and consent forms will be advertised through the school bulletins.
Okay. Thank you, Pat. So with that brings us to open session tonight. And before we start, I'm just going to apologize for everybody at home. I'm fighting a head cold, so if I cough into the microphone, I understand it's loud at home. I apologize. I'll try not to do that. The room's pretty full tonight. We have, from what I understand, a few issues in the room, so I am going to limit the open session tonight to 30 minutes, which is what these are moderator rules for the town of Chelmsford. When we're in town meeting, 3 minutes per speaker. If you are rehashing a topic that's already been covered, I'll ask you to move it along. If you speak with disrespect or disparagingly, we're going to ask you to step down. If any one topic gets too heated, we will shut that down. So with that, we're going to open up the open session.
Thank you. On May 10th, 2019, this board issued a proclamation that the town of Chelmsford is a welcoming community.
Maura, can we get your, I should
Oh,
ask.
sorry.
Can-
Yes,
name
I am
and
Maura
street
Snow,
address,
and I
please.
live at 41 Old Stage Road in Chelmsford. Sorry about
Thank you.
that. Anyone else speaking, you got to say that. So we issued the proclamation, the town of Chelmsford is a welcoming community and an exceptional place to live. And it is imperative that young people in the community, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity, feel valued, safe, empowered, and supported by their peers, educators, and community leaders. June 2019 was declared LGBTQ Pride Month in Chelmsford. Rainbow flags flew on the Center for the Arts, the Senior Center, and the schools. The library and the Senior Center distributed 1,000 handheld rainbow flags to anyone who wanted one. Please allow the rainbow flags to fly at the Center for the Arts, the schools, and the Senior Center in June every year. Imagine you are a gay teenager. You have seen hateful things about gay people on social media and many news sources. Friends at school use the phrase, "that's so gay," to describe things they regard as unacceptable or outside the norm. You have told no one that you are gay. You are not ready to tell anyone who you are. You have considered suicide because who you are is who too many people in this world hate most. In June 2019, you saw rainbow flags in Chelmsford, at the schools, the Center for the Arts, even the Senior Center. Those flags gave you hope and encouragement. Hey, there are peers, educators, and community leaders who actually welcome who you are, and they are willing to say so publicly. This board is composed of wonderful people, and I applaud your courage in being willing to serve the community. The town needs to weigh its concerns about liability from frivolous lawsuits against backing up its proclamation that we are a welcoming community and the positive message that that sends to the public. This month's Journal of the International City and County Management Association, ICMA, says that the way to get more economic development is to fly more rainbow flags. I'm not asking you to change your policy right now. I'm asking that you research the issue a bit before voting again on a flag policy. Any policy can be changed at any time. I called ICMA and I got permission to print these articles for you, and you have their permission to reprint them as needed. And that's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Maura.
Hello, my name is Charlie Smith. I live at 267 Littleton Road in Chelmsford. I was 13 the first time I was physically assaulted for being queer. I was 14 the first time someone called me a slur. I was 16 when I was outed. I got the head cold too. I was 16 when I was outed, then harassed, which led me to drop out of high school because none of the adults I went to would help me. I told them the names they called me. I told them that I didn't feel safe. No one stood up for me. No one protected me. And I had never felt more alone. The idea that there are trans kids, gay kids, bi kids, happy Bi Visibility Day, by the way, if you didn't know, young queers and young lesbians, the fact that what is going to happen to them will be what happened to me. It's really not acceptable. And now I'm an adult, so here I am. And I'm trying to right the wrongs of the adults that ignored me when I was a teenager. And I need those kids to be heard, and I want to feel heard as well. If any group that is recognized as a protected group under discrimination laws wants to be represented, they should have that right to do so. We are here. We are Chelmsford. We are Massachusetts. We are the state in which gay marriage was first legalized, and that's one of the reasons I'm very proud to call this place home. But for the love of all that is good in the world, please reconsider, forgive the phrase, a cowardly choice to refuse to fly the pride flags again next year. My queer little heart needs to know that the kids in Chelmsford know that they are safe, know that they are heard, and know that the adults in Chelmsford will stand and fight for them to be who they are, love who they love, and live in a community that welcomes them with pride and will not bow down to fear. Change is scary, and it is also necessary to make the world better than the way in which we entered it. Change is coming. Please be part of the better tomorrow and don't repeat the mistakes of yesterday. Thank you so much. I'm going to go back to a rehearsal at the Chelmsford Center for the Arts where a play is going up on Saturday where 2 lesbians will be featured, where lesbian characters will be featured. I hope to see you there at the Chelmsford Center for the Arts on Saturday. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Patrick Snow, 41 Old Stage Road. I'm going to try to make it brief because I'm super uncomfortable standing up here and stuff. I agree with what everybody else said. I'm speaking on the same thing with the pride flags. The only thing that I wanted to bring up, because it's the thing that I specifically thought of, was that I agree with the basic idea of what the decision was. I understand, I'm not sure who said it, but the idea was this is a nonpartisan body and that it's not appropriate for anybody to take any stances on political issues, which is something that matters to me because I work at a public access station in Acton where I work with people from all different parties, Democrats, Republicans, and everything in between, who want to come in and make shows expressing their viewpoint, and we're there to not pick sides or be partisan. We're there to support everybody in whatever they have to say and to make sure that whoever they are and whatever they have to say, that they have the best quality service from us. So I'm completely 100% apolitical at work. But I also have one of these little flags in my office in this little cup thing that I have to the side because I work with a lot of teenagers in my job, and just based off of my own experience, I know that it matters when you're a young person and you see something like this and you know that you are supported. And to me, that is completely separate from being a political issue. If you say that it's a political thing, then what you're doing is you're saying that the acceptance of those people or the rejection of them isn't just about being a decent person, but that it's like a political thing where, oh, well, we'll step aside and not take a stance on it. I think that it's completely unpolitical to say that we accept LGBT people, and that's sort of just the point I wanted to make. So now I'm going to go back and sit down. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Carrie Ives. I've lived in 22 Bartlett Street in Chelmsford. I've lived here for almost 2 years. I lived in Lowell before that for 15 years. As the Board of Selectmen for the town of Chelmsford, you've been elected to support the values of the town to the best of your ability. I appreciate that must be a really difficult job, and I thank you all for stepping up to do it. It's a position of responsibility, and it's a position that requires courage, because clearly there are people that are going to disagree with whatever your decisions are. Regarding flying non-governmental flags on town property, I ask that you reconsider option 1, which preserves your power as the board to decide to fly a flag in accordance with established declarations by the state or federal government. I ask this especially on behalf of those in town who are closeted members of the LGBT population and those who don't pay a lot of attention to politics. I was in a straight marriage for 15 years, and most people would not have guessed that I identify as part of the LGBT population. It was easier for me that way. Society is more accepting of diversity now than it was in the past, and still there are many people who are not comfortable being out in their family, at school, or at their workplace. Knowing that one's town accepts who they truly are can be one step towards self-acceptance and authentic self-expression. There are also many people who don't generally pay attention to town politics. This often includes the youth of the town. These people don't know if the Board of Selectmen signs a proclamation declaring June as Pride Month. However, if a flag is flown, as we've seen, people notice. When Pride flags flew from the CCA this June, there were high school youth taking pictures with them, knowing that the town supports them in their authentic selves. There were also closeted adults feeling the same way. What will those same citizens think a year from now when they notice the lack of flags flying in June? I ask for your reconsideration, and I thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you.
My name is Caitlin Kerrigan. I am at 57 Newfield Street in North Chelmsford. And I am speaking to the same subject as everybody else, but I have some interesting stats because I'm a math geek. So, as far as flying non-governmental flags, cancer awareness, pro-life, whatever the choices were, they don't pertain to a human rights issue. The pride flag pertains to a human rights issue. It's not political. LGBTQ members are living in this community, and if we were to go by, say, the Kinsey average, which is 10%, which is considered in some circles to be low, we would have 3,000 members in this community. But if we go by the low percentage of 4.5, there are 1,579 people on average living in this community who are LGBTQ+. 227 by the numbers in the school system are children. Now, the Palmia flag, which my father wore a pin for on his hat till the day he died, represents a total of 1,588 soldiers in all American wars. There's a good chance that no one represented by that flag lives in Chelmsford or family member thereof. But there is a guaranteed chance, or guarantee, that many, many people who are represented by the pride flag do live in Chelmsford. And by that statistic, that very low percentage, at least 71 Palmia soldiers, prisoners of war missing in action, were also represented by that flag. So, as far as myself, I am not represented by that flag directly, but I am represented, I'm here speaking on behalf of my daughter, who in the Chelmsford school system experienced bullying because she was gay. And she was bullied by a boy who thought that he could turn her straight if he just sexually harassed her enough. She was glee-filled when she saw that flag flying in the town. And taking it down, now that it has flown, now that people have seen it, is saying, yes, we know you're here, we recognize you're a part of the community, we just don't celebrate you. We just don't want you to be visible. And as someone already said, there are many people in this community who see that flag and think, ooh, maybe I'm safe to come out. I want my daughter to grow up in a town where she sees that flag, where being brave as she was and came out in 6th grade becomes commonplace for all children. And I would love to know that you were the guys who made that happen. So, thank you.
Is there anybody else here tonight that wants to address the board?
Good evening, Gary Perschetti, DPW Director. I just want to talk briefly about the roof here at the building. I think it's so important because it is going to involve the public as to some issues with usage. So we met Friday with the roofer. We met with the building department and the fire department to figure out how we are going to get this roof done and be able to keep people safe and stuff. So in front of you is the map. This will be on our website tomorrow. And same verbiage I'm going to go through right now. So basically, you see 2 areas in red, the big square in the front, which is taking that parking lot to the right when you drive in. That will be taken over on Friday the 11th for mobilization, and then Monday the 14th through the entire week, 5 days, it will be closed. That still gives the ability to people to come in, drop something off and leave, but there'll be absolutely no other parking up at the front of the building. We need a crane to get all of the materials off the roof, so that's the main reason for it. It'll be completely fenced in, the lot at the time, and it will have the proper signage. And then, barring no bad weather, they will be moving to the red in the back, which will take over that spot. We will be temporarily moving our dumpster down to where the recycled dumpster is for cardboard now. We'll be giving them that area. They will be setting up for 4 weeks down there, and there'll be a couple of occasional times that they will be closing the rear very temporarily to bring stuff up on the roof because we don't want anyone walking when that's being done. Just for safety, back to the front for 1 minute, there's a very small dot in the right-hand corner where the fire station jets out on your drawing, that's the yellow call box, which goes directly to the fire department dispatch. So we're covered if there's any issues anyway. That's there for safety. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Is there anybody else that wants to address the board?
I'm back again. My name is Mary Donovan. I live on 7 Tanglewood Drive in Chelmsford. I'm here tonight to say something. I wish and I hope you don't change the American flag policy. I'm here to represent all the American flags. When I was growing up, my mother taught me something because I was bullied and harassed because I had a foreign name. My mother taught me, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. You get along and you realize there is a way. But the American flag is for everybody. It didn't make a difference whether you were Chinese, German, Polish, Armenian, or if you had a different sex orientation. I have many gay people. I have many lesbians. As a matter of fact, I have a gay man that comes and cuts my hair. So to put up and destroy the American flag, I am deadly against it. If you want to put up these other flags, put them on your property. If you're going to put up other flags, I would like to see an Irish flag put up. I would like to see an Italian flag, a Scottish flag, a Russian flag, or whatever nationality you are. But I went through harassment and bullying, and I have survived. I am now a senior. No, yes, I am a senior. I'm not an elderly person yet. When I'm an elderly, I'll be 100 years old. Please do not destroy this American flag. If they want to put these flags that are here today, put it on their property. I have an odd flag on my property, but I also have the American flag, and I'm wearing one right now. Please, the veterans need our support. And if you don't, just remember, teach your kids, sticks and stones may break their bones, but they will survive it by becoming a better person. Thank you. And I hope you all listen to me.
Is there anybody else?
Patrick Snow again, 41 Old Stage Road. Just for like the general sense of it, I just want the record to be known that we were not requesting the pride flag to replace any American flags in town. There were 2 empty stanchions in the Chelmsford Center for the Arts, and the Chelmsford Center for the Arts decided, oh, that'd be a cool place to put a pride flag, and so they put those up this past year. And since the 4th of July, there's been, I think, an American flag in there, but we're not talking about the flag pole or removing any American flags. It was just a matter of adding that one to it. So I just kind of wanted to say that. Thanks.
Joe Spinazzola, 4 Glendale Road, North Chelmsford. I'm here to talk to you about Dunstable Road. Dunstable Road is not the Dunstable Road we knew in the past. You have a section of Dunstable Road from Swain Road to Mission Road. It's very dangerous for walking. You have a curve in the road where you can't pick up the cars. You also have a hill in that road where you can't pick up the cars. You can't pick them up quick. Also, in the morning, between 7 and 9, if you're walking up Dunstable Road north, people that are coming down are going like this to keep the sun out of their eyes. So it's a dangerous spot for walking. Now, I know you guys all are aware that we have a lot of truck traffic, gravel and so forth, and there's probably not much you can do with that. But there is one thing you can do. We also, by the way, have a lot of school traffic. 90% of the people that come down Swain Road take a left on Dunstable Road. There's a lot of the charter school that's up there on Mission Road. The moms and dads, they're driving their kids to school. Also, we have the truck traffic, and most of those drivers are pretty good. But you always get the idiot that has to pull up beside you, miss you by 2 feet, put it in neutral, and rev the engine. So we need a sidewalk in that section of Dunstable Road. It's about 1,000 feet. It's 0.2 of a mile. I know you've put sidewalks in other roads, so I assume you can do it there. We have neighbors that walk there. We have people from the condos that walk there. It's dangerous. So I'm giving you guys a heads up on it. That's my presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to address the board?
I guess I better. Sorry, guys. John Wojcik, Littleton Road, 80 Littleton Road. I spoke with some of you earlier today in the last few days, and everybody here knows me well. Yeah, Dunstable Road, Swain Road, Ledge Road. Something needs to be done to that area so that doesn't become the next Littleton Road with trucks and, you know, just people blowing through town. You know, I've grown up on Littleton Road my whole life. Things have changed. You know, sometimes things are expected to change, other things have changed, and we're wondering how and why they've changed. Back in the 90s, mid-90s, when I was coming here for the first time to speak out about the change with aggregate industries and how they took over something from Middlesex Paving, and then they blossomed that into something huge. And that was back in the 90s, and nothing was done. Nothing has changed at all other than trucks have got bigger. Now they're all permitted to carry overloaded weights. So before, you know, a truck was overloaded, he'd get pulled over, he'd get fined. Now all the trucks are permitted just to be overloaded. Like, you can't possibly put anything else on these trucks. It'd be nice if somebody spoke here, maybe Mike at some point just would speak out on exactly how much one of those trucks weighs. And, you know, that would enlighten a few people here on when those things are going through the center of town, running the red light at the end of 110, you know, they're not going to stop. But anyway, gentlemen, the last session had spoke about turning around in Newport's driveway, seeing a sign, no right turn. Trucks aren't allowed to go into Westford after they get their asphalt at Newport. Well, we have that same, or there's something very similar in place at Aggregate Industries on Oak Road. Now, when they operate at night, those trucks are supposed to be pulling out of that facility and going west on 110. And that goes all the way back to, I mean, before I can remember in the 80s that was part of growing up, is that facility. Of course, there wasn't the highway paving at night like there is now. But again, that was in place to get the traffic so it doesn't go through the residential neighborhoods. Now, that's there. I spoke with Mike about Sunday operations. Well, everybody knows Sunday operations, they have to call the chief of police. The chief of police has to grant them permission. Well, those two went hand in hand. And now I hear, well, there's nothing really written down about taking that right turn out of the plant at night. You know, yeah, they did it, and it was enforced back then, but we can't find any written regulation, but it's always been in place. It's not going to cost us anything just to go back and say to the plant, look, this was, you know, your operating practice. We're going back to it, and we're going to hold you feet to the fire, and, at 11 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night when they're hauling asphalt, they have to go through Westford. Now throw these trucks back, it's going to be a small portion coming out of aggregate. When Newport ramps up, it's going to be twice the process. So, and if it's not twice the process, it's going to be a pretty good process. They'll have a state-of-the-art facility, and they're going to be pumping this stuff out. So that's in our hands to just make them do that, and that will help alleviate traffic going through the center of town at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And, just help some people sleep at night. It's not going to help Ledge Road and those poor people, but, I feel for them, and they're just in for a horrible ride. But anyway, thank you for your time, everyone. And if you ever have any questions, Mike knows how to get in touch with me and other members of the board.
All right,
So
thank you.
thanks, George. Thank you. Thanks, Pat.
Anybody else want to address the board? Seeing none, I want to say thank you to everybody who got up and spoke tonight. I know sometimes when you see a crowd this big and you're on TV, you get nervous. We appreciate your input. We will take it into consideration. Thank you. With that, we're going to move on to the next section of our meeting.
Committee vacancies.
I know, but do you want to wait for Emily?
You do committee vacancies.
Okay. All right. You want to do those?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
So we'll start with committee vacancies.
Okay, the following committees have vacancies as of today. The Arts and Technology Education Fund has 1 vacancy. The CCA Advisory Committee has 1 vacancy. The Center Village Master Plan Implementation Committee has 1 vacancy. Commission on Disabilities has 1 vacancy. The Community Action Program Committee has 2 vacancies. The Council on Aging has 4 vacancies, all associate member positions. The Cultural Council can have up to 21 total members, and there's several vacancies there. The Energy Conservation Committee has 2 vacancies. The Historical Commission has 1 vacancy. The Holiday Decorating Committee has 3 vacancies. The Middlesex Canal Commission has 2 vacancies. The Neshoba Valley Technical High School Committee has 1 vacancy for an alternate member. The Parade Committee is welcoming all applicants. The Permanent Building Committee has 1 vacancy. Personnel Board has 1 vacancy. The Public Celebrations Committee has 5 vacancies. The Sign Advisory Committee has 3 vacancies. The Skate Park Committee has 2 vacancies, and the Tree Committee has 1 vacancy. If you're interested in applying for a position on any of these committees, you can fill out an application online at the town's website or in the town manager's office.
Thank you, Pat. With that, we're on to public hearings. Should we start those with our?
Probably do Carlton Sprague. That seems to be non-controversial.
Okay. So we're going to have a public hearing on the Carlton Sprague Avenue. This is the heavy commercial vehicle exclusion. Start with someone, anybody that want to address, you want to?
Do you want Mike to explain?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, as you've heard from some of the folks in open session, we've had issues with trucks over the years in town. And since I've been here, I've been trying to work with the residents in the various neighborhoods regarding issues with trucks. This is one of the fortunate instances where I was able to reach agreement with Mass DOT. As many of you know, Brick Hill Road has a large UPS distribution facility. And over the years, there's been folks coming forward regarding the number of trucks that overshoot the facility or come in the wrong way on Gorham Street, overshoot some of the turns, and then have been using Carlton and Sprague Avenues as cut-throughs to get back to the UPS facility. Over the years, I've spoken with several neighbors out there who provided me with documentation and photographs of trucks cutting across lawn, knocking down small brush and other items. We've done traffic counts over the years, and we've just been on the borderline of being able to get a heavy commercial vehicle exception. What has happened recently in Billerica, they had used some traffic calming devices, which has increased the number of trucks coming through those areas when they realize they can't get through, or it's become a nuisance going through those Billerica streets. So it's exacerbated the condition on Carlton and Sprague. I brought this issue back to the attention of Mass DOT, who had previously received documentation from me regarding this issue. So they indicated at this time that they would be willing to approve the heavy commercial vehicle exclusions on those two separate municipal ways, provided that you adopt a change to our traffic rules and ordinances, which are under Section 203 of the Town Code, specifically Section 42, which is the heavy commercial vehicle exceptions. It adopts the language straight out of the Manual and Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which also talks about the alternate route, which would be to use Gorham Street, and if they overshoot, to come back down Brick Kiln Road. I also want the chair to know that I did publish this heavy commercial exception and this public hearing pursuant to Massachusetts General Law 90, Section 18, so that if approved by this board, we would have adhered to all the proper publication. And once the board makes its decision, if it's in favor of this, I have some documents that we can sign at the end of the evening, and then Mass DOT will allow us to put up signage prohibiting trucks from coming through these streets.
Okay. Where it's a public hearing, does anybody want to speak on the topic? And again, just please state your name. Thank you.
Marlene Cody, 28 Sprague Ave. I just want to speak in favor of this. I'm really, really appreciative of Mike McCall doing the legwork to get the state to agree to this. We've been fighting the truck issue for over 20 years. I've lived in Chelmsford almost my whole life, and I'm really happy to be having this happen. So I urge you to please vote for it. And, you know, if you need any more convincing, I have other things to say, but that's really all I want to say.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Chris Tatton. I live at 21 Sprague Avenue, and I am also very much in favor of this. In addition to just the overshooting from UPS, I would contend that there is a lot of traffic that comes off 495 that comes down through North Billerica and uses our streets as a cut through to get to UPS in order to bypass US 3 South and the traffic that causes. Specifically, as we start getting into the, closer to the holiday shopping season, the quantity of trucks that are moving down the road towards UPS increases in frequency drastically. And there's been times that I have literally sat in my living room and counted over 20 trucks, heavy, semis that are rolling down the road at all hours of the night. Sometimes as late as 11:30, midnight, in order to get to UPS. So again, I'd be very much in favor of this measure to avoid our street as a cut through and prevent this. Thank you.
Hi, Jane Souza, 26 Carlton Ave. Mike, a couple of years ago.
Mr. Souza was one of the first people who approached me about this.
I wanted to somehow have you look at these. I've sent them to Mike 2 years ago. And this is just a very small amount of the trucks that turn right at the corners of Brickillen and Carlton, or Brickillen and Sprague, or drive onto someone's lawn, or back into someone's trees. And there are a lot of kids in the neighborhood that are getting off buses and walking down the street, and on skateboards and bicycles. And my own grandchildren, I don't like to take them out on the street because of the trucks. It's just very, very dangerous. And I'd like to leave these to show you just how close these trucks come after they leave UPS or go past UPS and have to turn around, sometimes with a double trailer. And at night, in the dark, the daytime, anywhere. This is where kids live next to me, and there's where the trucks are. So I'd be very happy if you could show the board also that, it really needs to have something done to it because it's very dangerous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bob Neville, 12 Carlton Ave. I drive a track trailer myself. I park my trailers at a different location. I bring my truck home every night. I park it on Sprague Street in my rear driveway. I've been doing this for a number of years. I grew up at this house. I'm taking a house from my parents, and I plan on staying in town here. UPS is a huge issue. I can't argue that. I watch trucks and trailers go up Carlton Ave day and night, nonstop. You know, I leave my house at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Trucks are going up and down Sprague Street and Carlton Ave. It's ridiculous. UPS is brutal. But I don't want to see it affect me from bringing my truck home and my work. So I'm just hoping that it's not going to stop me from bringing my truck home with these signs that go up.
No, because you're a resident?
Yes.
It's the same way I can turn on the, no turning from 7 to 9 in my neighborhood, so it's not a cut through for Final Square, but I live there. So I need to get home. So
Right.
Because I am a resident and I'm not cutting through to avoid lights, so it shouldn't affect residents.
So if he does get pulled over, he just shows his your
Yeah,
driver's
and
ID.
like I'm
That's
going
all?
to my house.
Yeah.
And
So-
there are exclusions built into the Mass DOT's amendments to the uniform on traffic control.
For example, let's say somebody on the street was moving and needed the moving van. I mean,
Right,
You're not
exactly.
going to say you can't bring.
No, I
those.
understand that, but I'm a lot
There are
larger
exceptions.
capacity of a truck than a
The
moving
meant
van.
through is through traffic. is
Right.
what it's applying to.
Right. But I just want to make
You
sure
can't-
it's not
you
going
can't
to affect me.
exclude-
You'll be fine.
You
Okay.
can't exclude
No,
an oil
because you're a
delivery or
resident.
anything like
Okay.
that.
I just wanted to make sure.
Fine.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Make it. My name's Arthur Kenny. I live at 34 Sprague Avenue. I've spoken to you on occasion, Mike, and I don't have children, but I have a grandchild on the way, so I'm concerned about the trucks going through. 53-foot trailers tearing down limbs. Bobby, I know he goes through the neighborhood about 3 miles an hour. Just crawls down to his tractor and no big trailer. But I know it's UPS. I know they need their freight. No reason they can't go in from 129. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
My name's Manny Souza. I live at 26 Carlton Ave. I think I've spoken to Mike a few times. I think I worked with him taking pictures for at least a year. And my issue is with the kids on the road on Carlton and Sprague. And for some reason, I'm not sure if the tractor-trailer drivers don't understand or can't read English, but they keep bypassing UPS, and I have no idea for it. You know, I was told, oh, it's the navigation systems. They're using your roads as shortcuts. I have no idea about that. And I have found, 3 in the morning and early as 4 in Sunday mornings, tractor trailers going up Sprague, going up Carlton. There's a guy who drives a tractor trailer right at the end of my road, and he comes up Carlton, and he's smashing all the tree branches that I have to pick up. So I don't think that's fair as being a resident, and I've lived in Chelmsford all my life. So I'm in favor of that, putting that up. And as far as Mr. Neville, I can vouch. He's very good. He doesn't have a tractor trailer, it's only a cab. And he's very considerate because he lives in the neighborhood. So I'm in favor of putting the signs up. I think it'd be beneficial. And I can walk my kids, my grandchildren now. Because it gets to a point, I'm walking the grandchildren and it's a tractor trailer coming up. Who's got the right of way? It's only a single road. Do I make him back all the way up? Do I go up to my neighbor's lawn? It's definitely a safety issue as far as I'm concerned. So I approve, I'd like to see the signs go up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, with that, do we have a motion?
Oh, he's not coming. Did I make a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any discussion?
You just voted.
We just,
Is that-
no, we just voted to close the public hearing.
Okay.
Any comments? Okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion as requested in a letter from Mass DOT to the town dated August 27, 2019. I move that this board amend Chapter 203, Section 42, Paragraph A of the Town of Chelmsford Traffic Rules and Orders by adopting 24-hour heavy commercial vehicle exclusions of vehicles in excess of 2.5-ton capacity on Carlton Avenue and Sprague Avenue in Chelmsford. The alternate route shall be Route 3A, also known as Gorham Street, to Brick Kiln Road.
Well, second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
And I also have another motion
Okay.
to move, that I make a motion that this board pursuant to Chapter 203, Section 7 of the Town of Chelmsford Traffic Rules and Orders, place and maintain the appropriate heavy commercial vehicle exclusion signage at each end of Carlton Avenue and Sprague Avenue in Chelmsford.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So that's 5-0 on both.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, with that, we'll move to the continuation for the Class 2 auto dealership for Ferrer Towing. Is he here? See him.
Hi, Sharon McNulty.
There is an update.
Richard Mason.
Yep.
Casey Tyler.
So I understand the building commissioner did come out and do his investigation. I assume that you guys got his report?
Yes, we did.
He's here
Is
here
he
this
here to
evening, Mr.
speak
Chairman.
to
Do you
it?
want to speak? If you
Oh,
wanna hear
Sean
from him.
is, I didn't see him in the room. Oh, there he is. Okay.
Sure.
Hi, how are you? Sean Shannon, Building Commissioner of Town of Chelmsford. I went out and did an inspection over at the site. Compared pictures I could find dating back to 2000. I've had no evidence that they've paved any more than what has been paved. Dating back to what I can see, 2006, 2002, all the way back to 2000. I see the changes that were made in 2009 have been kept up and maintained. And I honestly feel that the spot that was created for employee parking versus the, I would call it salvage car parking that was on the side there, is much more eye-appealing and much more pleasing to the roadside. As well as, I can't picture having a tow truck or a transport vehicle pulling out of there with another vehicle on it. That would be dangerous. So it appears the use is what it should be and what it should be in character. I did include a small passage of what I thought it was, but that's about it.
Okay.
You have a recommendation, Sean? You have a recommendation?
My recommendation is it is in compliance with what was put out in 2009. I did not find an order or a letter of compliance from the former building commissioners at the time, and I believe there were two involved back then, Scott Hammond, and then I found nothing from Mark Dupel written on this. So my recommendation would be to hold it in compliance and go from there.
Thank you. Where is a public hearing? Where is a public hearing? Is there anybody from the public who would like to speak on this? Seeing nobody?
I have one quick question. In regards to curb cuts and things like that, if it comes forward, information comes forward later on that something wasn't done right, then what happens? Does a license get revoked or?
Not sure, Sean, yet. Sure.
Get suspended or something.
He's saying that nobody just wrote it down, but, you know, when I did my curb cut, I had 5 pages from the state. I had, you know, there were guidelines on curb and thickness of curb, depth of concrete. You know, I had a lot of paperwork that went along with the deed of my house. So I'm just wondering if, you know, something happens later on. I mean, do they lose the license, or now that they get it, they just have it now?
So in the research, I looked specifically at the curb cut question because that was a major question. There's no evidence dating back to the pictures I saw from 2000. It was pretty clear that even in 2000 there was a curb cut there, right across the front. The curb cut became, I guess it became more defined with the cleaning up of the driveway entrance, so to speak, with landscaping and making it more appealing. But if you looked at 2006 pictures when the road was just paved, there was no curb. It was very clear on the curb. If you'd like, I have a couple pictures I can pass around of
Sure.
2006.
Yeah, I would like to address the board that in the 16 years I've been at Forever Towing, we have not changed the placement of our driveway entrance. We have never changed the curb or requested, you know, to go to the state to change or the town to change any of that. Again, the parking existed and we were driving over where we drive exactly now. If anything, as Mr. Shanahan pointed out, we simply made it more appealing and quite frankly safer.
Here's 2006 when we paved the road. There's nothing there.
Thank you, Sean. Be right there. Can't really see it there. Okay. Yes. Okay, is there anybody else that would like to address the board? With that,
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I will second.
a motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Discussion? George?
Oh, this is what, is this a 6? Was this 6?
6, yes.
I have no problem with allowing this.
Okay.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we approve a Class 2 auto dealer's license for Forever's Towing at 293 Littleton Road, not to exceed 6 vehicles on site.
Second.
A motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Sean.
Thanks, Sean, for your work.
Sure, please.
Okay, now we're on to licenses. We're going to start off with the Brickhouse Pizza, one-day license.
Charlie Mickle, Center Brickhouse Pizza, 1 Central Square. We're just here, again, we had to move our originally planned entertainment license that we got for Labor Day weekend. We're looking to move it to Columbus Day Sunday and going a little earlier in the hours.
Okay.
It's the Sunday before. It's not the Monday.
I know when we discussed this the last time, you weren't here, and I felt bad because it came up about possibly having a police detail, but I do see a letter here from Chief Spinney saying he has no issues. So I don't really see a need for that. Does anybody have any questions of Charlie?
This is exactly the same, it's just a different date, right?
Yeah.
And that you shifted the times a little bit?
We want
A little
just
early.
where it gets darker and
Right earlier.
going a little early.
Okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the expansion of the entertainment license for Brickhouse Center Pizza for October 13th, 2019, to allow live outdoor entertainment from 2 to 6 p.m.
A second?
A motion, a second. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Before you walk away, large font menus. Just think about it.
They're in.
They're there?
They might be at Staples right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
I'll be checking up on you.
Hopefully I did the right font.
It's all right. Thank you for listening.
Good luck, Joe.
All right, so that brings us to, what are we on now? Mixed-use package store licenses?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the Board of Selectmen back in October of 2006 adopted a policy which reads as follows regarding mixed-use package store licenses. It shall be the policy of the Chelmsford Board of Selectmen not to issue any alcohol licenses to establishments which are defined by law as food stores, including but not limited to retail vendors such as convenience stores, grocery stores, supermarkets, shops, clubs, outlets, or warehouse-type sellers that sell food to consumers to be eaten elsewhere. Why this is on the agenda this evening is since 2006, and more recently, a few years back, you may recall the state modified the state's alcohol license, allowing license holders to hold more licenses in the state. There's an expansion process under what was known as one of the early grand compromises and so forth. That issue has finally hit Chelmsford. Christina Bruce, our assistant in the office, who's here this evening, she received a telephone call since your last meeting from a supermarket in the community, expressing a desire to use one of its limited licenses in the Commonwealth to sell beer and wine in Chelmsford at its Chelmsford location. What they asked, though, what we basically referred to them as, we notified them of the policy and we explained to them that anybody has the right, as we saw earlier this evening, to petition the board for a change in policy. They chose not to do that formal appearance, but they sort of asked if I would inquire to the board whether the board would have interest in the hearing or issuance of a license to a supermarket for beer and wine at a Chelmsford location. Now, obviously, there are only 3 supermarkets in town, so you can figure out it's one of those 3. I'm not going to identify them. I don't think it matters which one it would be, but I really wanted to bring it before the board to see what the sense is in today's world if the board wishes to entertain such a consideration.
All I know is I've been on the board for 11 years, and every time I watch...
And here, Judge. You've got to speak into the mic over.
I've been on the board for 11 years, and we've had a few of these come in front of us, and each time we've gotten a tremendous amount of throwback against them. So, including the police and other, as far as, back markets.
Right, but this was the first time we got a supermarket.
Last time, no, I think we had
Hannaford's
Hannaford's.
not.
We had
Hannaford's.
Hannaford's.
Hannaford's
About
did.
3 or 4 years ago.
Well, it was longer
5
than
years
that, but
ago.
it's been since George and I have been on the board,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
It was a big thing, because they have them other states and whatever, but anyway. And then it's when I come up when the gas station has one, and the one that's half in Lowell, half
Right,
in Chelmsford.
Drum Hill.
Remember that now?
Drum Hill, that's still there, yeah.
But I mean, there wasn't anything positive that came out of the applications. It was, I think Chief Spinney was dead against it, and I think all the police reports were against it. Whatever. It's only.
Yeah, I agree with George. The discussion, I know, we basically reaffirmed our policy during that request when they came in. And a big part of it was because right over the line in Lowell, in Lowell they seem to give licenses to every convenience store and whatever that wants one. And the desire is to make it be a little bit more exclusive to the package stores.
Paul, they go hand in hand. If you say yes to the grocery store, you get all the convenience stores and gas stations.
You can.
Well, the board has discretion on granting licenses, and so I guess the question is, if the board simply wants to make a motion to reaffirm its policy, that's fine. I just want to provide an answer to.
But can the board say the board make a decision like we only allow it to grocery stores?
Now you're setting a precedent, though.
Because you review a case on its merits. I mean, because, we've been before ABCC on these issues, and the issue was always the issue of selling to minors. And I think they would argue that the logistics of a large supermarket in terms of its setup would be very different than a corner variety store. But that's I'm not hearing any advocacy piece. I'm just conveying the request that came before us and answering your inquiry. But you do have the right to treat each license on its merits.
And just
application.
Sorry. Does this take one of our existing licenses, or what were you saying about the state?
This board or this community has not issued beer and wine licenses. We have plenty of licenses for beer and wine only, and that's what's being sought. Not all alcohol, beer and wine only. So no, we have licenses to issue. They just want to know would the board be interested in issuing such a license.
So my question on this is just my understanding is that a particular supermarket chain only has so many that it can use before it has used up its maximum. Now, does that apply to gas stations too? So that Exxon only has like 3. It
happens to license holders.
Okay.
So
are gas stations franchised and therefore outside of that?
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
All right, I see how that works.
So basically, one of these major supermarkets obviously has a license available, and they're interested in selling beer and wine at its Chelmsford location.
Well, I'm
saying it's right or wrong.
I'm assuming that's pretty close to one of the existing package stores right now, and right down the street on the other side, even though part of it's in Lowell, there's 2 or 3 beer and wine licenses right there. Some of the ones that moved out of town at one time. As a matter of fact, I'm assuming they're on Chelmsford. It's on Chelmsford Street. I mean, there's only...
No, it could be either Drum Hill or Chelmsford Street.
Well, we already mentioned Hannaford, so if it's...
We didn't
How
say
do you
it
know
was.
it's not Hannaford's again?
He just
We don't-
mentioned it, but a few years ago that
It is a slightly different board.
I mean, there are plenty of places around all the liquor stores, all the grocery stores to go to a liquor store.
Yes.
That's clear.
So this is 13 years old. So, I mean, should we hear again from Chief Spinney or whoever the stakeholders are in this the reason a business would want to do it is because it helps the business. And I realize there's a flip side to that too, but I don't know how dated the conversations are that you're talking about, or if it's just time to at least have the conversation again.
And I think the initial caution was because we have, in Massachusetts and more broadly in New England for so long, have had this concept of a package store that I think the worry at the time was if you let large-scale supermarket chains handle it, they'll have teenagers cashing people out. They might not be as responsible with carding. And so I'm wondering with places like Wegmans opening up or, other supermarkets that have these licenses, whether or not there's fresh data on that and whether or not there have been issues. So it might be worth checking in on statistics and concerns and seeing if they are still the same or if any of their fears have been borne out by...
Well, I mean, I'll say this because, the two of you are newer than I am, but I've only been here 2.5 years. But in the 2.5 years, I've heard Chief Spinney speak on this, where the concern was a little bit of that, but also, if you have a small convenience store or a gas station that's struggling, you don't want them to become known as the place that it's easy to get liquor in order to help support their sales, to just sort of get by and keep them in business. That's the one thing you don't want, is everybody knows the place to go to get there, not get carded. I'm up to date on it. I don't. If you want us to have Chief Spinney come in.
I mean, I would just say too. I mean, just because it was approved in 2006, as George mentioned, it's been since then. It's because
every couple of years it does come up.
Right. So
something comes up, and it's always a question of policing it. I mean, we're understaffed now with the police, so I mean, to police something that large and to have so many people tip certified and who's handling what and where and front door, back door, whatever. I mean, it's a lot of. So I think it just causes a headache. So I think you should just leave it the way it is. But that's my opinion.
I mean, I'm good on where it is now. But if the newer members of the board want to go through it and have a refresher out of respect, I'd do it.
I was just posing the question.
It's a good question. It's a
I
good
can go 10
question.
minutes up the road and shop in a supermarket that sells beer and wine, and
Yeah.
they don't have any issues, so.
No, again, the issue is not the supermarket. The issue is what potentially other stores might get these.
But we can set that policy, and
True.
because they come before us, just like restaurants come before us and ask, and you have that public comment section. I feel like that's one of the checks against an over-distribution
So what should we do?
licenses.
I think once you start, where you're gonna stop? As again, it's the same thing as the flag situation, in my opinion. I mean, I don't like to bring the flag thing up tonight, because I heard some comments I didn't particularly like. But, I think if you start with one, you're never gonna be able to say no to anybody else, so that's just my opinion. And
Well, I'd make a motion that we reaffirm our policy as is.
I was gonna say we could table it until another session and just ask, but if you are, I mean, I'm agnostic on this. I
Yeah.
kind of don't have strong feelings one way or another, so.
Maybe we could revisit it a little later, but we have so much going on right now.
I mean, I can convey that the sense that I received was that the majority of the board was not interested in altering its policy. I think that's clear. If you don't want to take a formal vote, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, they just wanted to feel, your interest.
Excuse me, is this meant to be a private conversation? Because we can't hear you.
Oh.
I can tell you, people in the back, we can't hear you. You should pull those microphones. I could hear Mr. Dixon, because he was asked to pull his microphone closer.
Yeah, we'll
Thank you.
all right, so we'll pull them closer.
It's like
Thank you.
you're talking
Okay.
amongst yourselves.
Sorry about that. If anybody at home, we apologize. We'll start getting closer here.
Okay. No, I mean, I'll respond to the applicant that the board at this time is not deviating from its policy. Doesn't mean it won't happen in the future, but at this point in time, the board, in other words, they don't want to go through the expense and effort and appearance, and I think I clearly could tell them that this is not the time
Right.
to do that.
But in an effort, I mean, understanding that Emily still has, she'll be here for another 2 years. Virginia 3, do you want them to you want Chief Spinney to come in and run through his logic of why, just so you can hear it out?
I mean, or I could shoot him an email too. He's
Yeah.
pretty good about
Okay.
responding.
All right.
Like he's so.
Okay.
I mean, that's
All right.
easy enough to do.
Okay.
So.
Thank you, Mr.
All right, and if you find something different, then let us know, and
All right.
Okay,
we'll
thank you.
revisit it. Yep, thank you.
Okay, towards the next item I own is licensing fees. Towards that time, it's been over a decade since the board has examined its licensing fees. I've asked Christina Bruce, our assistant, to examine our licensing fees. She's done a diligent job looking at the statutory references, reaching out to other communities, so I'm going to ask her to come to the podium. She's graciously taken time to come out this evening and explain where we're at, and I think overall we're in a pretty good place, so I'll ask her to present her findings.
Good evening. For the record, I'm Christina Bruce, Support Services Coordinator for the town. So what you have in your packets is the current schedule of fees, which was updated in 2008, as the town manager said. And then we've got two different sheets, one for alcohol licensing and one for various other types. We've come up with the current fees for comparable towns to Chelmsford, so that you can compare where we stand. With the exception of Andover and North Andover, we're not all that far out of line with most of the towns. Back in 2000, there was a 2-year step-up of fees for many types of licenses, and then again in 2008, alcohol licenses weren't really adjusted. It was some various types, automatic amusements, auto dealers, common victualers, and entertainment. So notable amongst these, if you look at statutory maximums on the other types of licenses, entertainment licensing, we should consider adjusting that to come in line with the statutory maximum. And then another thing that has sort of come to my attention is just whether or not the board was interested in looking at the criteria for requiring an entertainment license, whether a television or a radio as background is really considered entertainment, as opposed to live entertainment or a boxing match, etc. So that would be up to the board if you wanted to take up that matter as well.
So for an entertainment license, do they pay one license no matter how many TVs or how many?
Currently, this board has been requiring the license if they have any type of entertainment, live recorded television, and there has been no differentiation between a radio or 100 televisions or one television or a live band.
And even if it's one television off, they got to pay it. If it's just sitting there with the remote.
That's
okay.
That's how it has been. And in talking with other towns, that is not too common. Most of them are requiring, if they have live entertainment, many that I asked aren't requiring an entertainment license for a television or a radio.
Are or are not?
Are not.
It's a sign of the times.
But according to your chart here, the towns do have it.
They have them, but they have an entertainment license and they have a fee, but they're
But not
requiring
the
that
TVs.
license from someone who has live entertainment, say, but they aren't requiring that license from a restaurant that has a radio or television.
They aren't considering radio and television as entertainment that needs to be licensed.
So if they have a live band one night during the year, they still have to pay for that license.
Well, they could ask
Do a
for a
one-day.
one-day license.
Got it.
Mhm.
Or let's say they do it every Thursday night.
Yep,
And they're
then-
buying an annual. And that covers them for the TVs and the live entertainment.
Correct. So currently, we are, at any time we're issuing a new common victular license or alcohol license, we are asking them to fill out our entertainment application as well if they intend to have any of these types, including just television. And then the board hears from them what type they're looking to have, but the license is the same.
Okay.
So are we looking to go up on fees?
No,
Is
we're
that
actually
what-
looking to do away with
That one
charging
fee.
somebody a license who, like, let's say a
Who
pizza,
wants to
let's say a
play
place
radio?
that sells pizza, or, serve
Oh, I
pizza.
can name 10 of
takeout.
them.
You can name 10 of
Fishbones.
them, exactly.
Novo.
They're not having live entertainment. We're charging them a fee to have a
No, I'm
TV
thinking
on
about
a
like
radio.
I
a
agree,
pizza
I
place
agree.
we
So
got
we're actually
slash
coming here to
restaurant.
do away with
No,
fees.
Where they came in and they were like, we're just having one TV, and it didn't even occur to me to ask why that required an entertainment license. Like, I didn't know whether it was like a notification, like, check the box, we're gonna have a television.
Bonito's, Chelmsford
Well, that's it.
Pizza.
I mean, like, it's
think of
just-
all of them.
And you
Jimmy's.
figure during downtime, like, when everything's all clean and prepped and you're just waiting for phone calls to come in, like,
Well, I think it depends on what the purpose of that TV or radio is. I mean, obviously, Brick House, their TVs are the entertainment. But
I
I
think
would
occasionally
think-
they also have live bands and they have trivia night and they
right,
have.
whatever.
so
But,
so that is entertainment. I would
Right,
not
exactly.
call a television at this point something that is so specialized, like specialized equipment. Like, I just feel like this is not.
No,
I mean,
it's
if I
a-
really want to watch TV,
I understand. You can watch
I
TV
mean-
on anything now. You can watch TV on your
Yeah,
watch now. But that's
we could
not
be
the
sitting
point.
here watching Netflix right now. We're not, but like we could be. So I mean, like I think that it's
And why we're mentioning it, we're coming up for license renewal season.
Right.
So
Yeah.
again, if we're going to do renewals, then I guess what we're suggesting is let's do away with the entertainment license for
television
that
and
isn't
radio
live entertainment.
especially. Like that's
Well, but I'm also sitting there going through in my head all the different establishments that have TVs, but then at some point throughout the year and several times a year might have live entertainment. A lot of the places do bring in a live band one night a week or
Yeah, then they would-
a
then they
singer.
would-
So
they
they're going to
would-
be paying it anyways.
they would pay it- they
So
would
you're
pay it
really
anyway.
only going to be knocking it off, or really like the pizza shops and the.
Exactly.
But why are we? I just don't see television and radio as.
No, we're agreeing.
Right,
Yeah,
so we
okay,
won't
great.
put that on
Yeah.
our application
So,
form.
all
We'll
right.
just
We're
say,
agreeing, Emily.
do you host
Good.
live entertainment?
Yeah,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
that's reasonable.
What's your
So.
thoughts?
I just said, I mean, I think if the purpose of you coming to that establishment is to watch TV, then I think we should. But if the sense of the rest of the board is TVs are okay, then,
But I'm thinking of the places that you go to watch TV, even they, like the establishment, which is known for having 48 TVs, they still have a live band that comes in on Thursday
I
night.
understand that. But what if they don't? What if a restaurant does not ever have,
His poker night on Monday nights, he pays an entertainment for
we don't need to talk
I'm
about
just trying to think of a
individual-
different, I know, but I'm just trying to think of different examples of how
I feel
it
like
would.
you're already paying the electricity to run your 48 TVs. If that is your choice, like, I mean,
I think the issue, the purpose,
Yeah.
I think behind the thing was the impact on the public safety and the community of entertainment, a venue, live bands, people coming in and out.
How many
I don't-
police phone calls have we
Right.
had over
We
radio
don't.
or television
None.
in the past 25 years?
Yeah.
Right, none. Right. So if you
So,
go,
this doesn't seem to be a public safety issue that we
Right.
need to worry
So
about.
if you go, so if you go into an establishment on Fletcher Street that's selling pizzas and has a TV in there, it's really not entertainment.
Yeah.
That's sort of what we're trying to
And I'm
get.
trying to think, every place that does have a TV as a form of entertainment also does other things, so they're going to pay it anyway.
They
So
pay it
I'm,
anyway.
okay,
Which is
I
fine.
understand, yep.
But
If you find it helpful, the presumption is that an entertainment license will be approved unless the board has a public safety concern that they can enumerate as a reason for a denial. That does help to illuminate the purpose behind the statute. So if a change were to be made in the requirement by this board, when I send out renewal packets this fall, I would be requesting each current licensee to let us know what type of entertainment they currently have, and I can ask that in any form you want. If you'd like me to ask how many televisions they have, so that you could make a differentiation between 1 or 2 televisions versus 40, that would be an option for you as well.
I really
I
don't
think
care.
simpler is better.
Yeah, just whatever. If it's a television or 40 televisions and that's all you do, then whatever. I just don't.
The other thing you want to mention, Christine, if we're on topics, is the idea of one-day licenses for nonprofits and,
Yes.
just take a moment, because this gets better.
So we do a number of one-day licenses, not that many. Most of them, one-day liquor licenses, are typically for charitable fundraisers. And some of the towns that I spoke with that do have a fee actually waive that fee for a nonprofit organization as well. So that is another consideration.
No, the purpose behind that fee is in case there is a large enough crowd that a police officer needs to be called, it offsets, in theory, that overtime or that time that an officer needs to be there. That is the purpose of those licenses.
Yeah. Right, so again, we've come across that other communities waive those for nonprofit organizations, and again, we sort of bring it to your consideration. Again, you don't have to decide this evening, but for the thought in terms of going forward, do we wish to enact a similar policy? Because most of those nonprofits are doing it for charitable purposes, obviously.
Right, so you're defeating the purpose by charging them
Exactly.
$100 or whatever that may.
And you've seen these things come through regularly. We've
the
never heard of any
library.
concerns
Yeah,
with a lot of them,
no.
the library or some of the
whatever.
churches and so forth. I mean,
Well, then if we stop doing this, St. Varnan's would be half of our one-day licenses, right, for a year.
Not saying, no, you still grant the license, you just waive the
No,
fee.
no,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what I mean.
Half the revenue, she's saying.
Yeah,
Right,
half
but
the revenue.
We're running a $137 million operation. I don't
Like, I
think
feel like
that the
$500 is just.
Well,
gonna
okay,
go
so,
on.
well, then that gets to another, would the nonprofit status include town, locations like the library and the
Sure.
senior center?
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
So we currently waive the fee for
Yeah,
the
we waive that.
library, as it is
Oh.
already a town entity. We don't pay ourselves. So I actually did not include those. I think the library had 2 issued so far in 2019. So of these 9 that are on the list,
Permanent license.
I would say all but maybe 1 or 2 of those were nonprofit
Okay.
events. And I will be sending out, this does not affect the one-day licensing, but as far as entertainment, I will be sending out the renewal packets in late October, so anything decided in the earlier 2 October meetings could be included in the information I send. So there is more time to look at this issue. And
Do we need more time? Can we take action tonight?
No, you can take action tonight. It's on the agenda.
Yep.
Yeah.
What do you want? You want it for both? For both things?
I mean, I'm okay with both, but I need someone to make the motion.
All right, I'll make a motion that we not require an entertainment license for an establishment that has just radio and TV, and also that we waive the one-day license fee for nonprofits.
I'll second.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
And
you, Mr.
regarding the fee for entertainment, if you take a look, the current fee is $200,
Yeah.
and the statutory maximum is $100. So will the board be considering
Doesn't seem like we
adjusting
need
that
a
fee to
motion
bring
for
that back in line?
Figure if it's a statutory thing, then it's, you know. we do.
We'll implement that statutory requirement, regulation at the new licensing renewal, so.
You need us to?
No, we don't need a motion to
for
follow the
requirement.
statutory.
Yeah. We don't need a motion to obey the law.
Right, exactly.
Just making sure.
Thank you.
So we're gonna get a big headline in the newspaper, Board of Selectmen lowers fees, right, yeah.
There you go.
Right? Winning.
Right, exactly.
Winning.
No, I really want to thank Christine.
Prompted by town manager.
Right, no, I really want, Christine
Thank you,
put a lot
Christina.
she put a lot of effort and work into this, you can tell, it's very diligent and really, was really eye-opening, so that was very good.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Christine. All right, Paul.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next item on our agenda is the presentation for town meeting warrant articles. It's 8:30 PM. I will be efficient in the presentation. I have department heads who will assist me in the presentations. Town meeting is 4 weeks from tonight at the Senior Center on October 21st. Finance Committee has had 2 hearings on these warrant articles the last 2 Thursday evenings. They're going to make their votes and recommendations this coming Thursday, and their book will be out the beginning of October. Real quick, Article 1 is, it's reports. John Souza will provide, as required by our bylaws, the 5-year forecast, so that will be Article 1. If you wish any other report, please let me know, and we can schedule it, but that's all I have at this point. We have 32 articles. From there, Articles 2 through 6 are what's going to, in speaking to the moderator, will be the consent agenda, meaning that these are basically perfunctory articles that basically clean up unexpired appropriations or de minimis appropriations or renewals of longstanding practices. So again, Article 2 is rescinding the remaining unused borrowing for the Chelmsford Forum that was authorized but not issued. So we want to get that off the books. Article 3 was rescinding the remaining unexpended funds for the Progress Avenue Sewer Pump Station. There was $93,000 left from that $825,000 project. So again, what happens there is that money just goes back into the Sewer System Capacity Impact Fund. Article 4 is rescinding 4 appropriations for previously voted upon and obviously completed community preservation funds. So again, nothing of significance there. Article 5 is the perennial town meeting authorization to transfer funds from the sale of lots and graves to the Cemetery Improvement and Development Fund for the work at the Pine Ridge Cemetery expansion. Article 6 is the new one that first appeared last year. This has to do with the appropriation of funds from the Commonwealth Transportation Infrastructure Fund. It's a whopping $7,802.50. We're going to apply that to a sidewalk ramp project that the DPW is going to do on Golden Cove Road to make those sidewalks ADA compliant. Again, that all comes from that 20 cents per ride assessment from the Mass Department of Public Utilities, where half goes back to the host community where the ride originated. That $7,800 is actually an increase over the $5,300 we had this past year, so that's obviously showing the increased popularity of the Uber and the Lyft and those type of activities. So again, that's perfunctory. Article 7 is collective bargaining agreements. At this point, we have one. We expect we'll have at least one more. At the end of your last meeting 2 weeks ago, you voted to approve the police patrol officers' 3-year collective bargaining agreement. That will be brought forth to town meeting on the 21st. And that provides a 2% increase in the wage schedule. We eliminate the bottommost step from the wage schedule in fiscal years 20 and 21, and we enhance the educational incentives to the market base, which is basically the Quinn Bill parity of 10% educational incentive for an associate's degree and 20% for a bachelor's. So again, the board discussed that at your last meeting and voted it publicly at the end of the meeting. Article 8 is amendments to the current fiscal year budget. There's no action on that. Right. In hearing from the schools at Thursday night's Finance Committee, they see no issues with their budget for the year. And on the town side, there are no significant issues. Again, we're only 3 years into the fiscal year, but it's good that we're in a good place. So again, that's why the placeholder was there. Article 9 is where we start allocating the town's free cash. This is a required, meaning it's required by the community. It's not required by state law, but the community has a sewer construction funding process where the sewer project was funded over years from debt exclusions and then betterments. and then then an impact in the sewer construction stabilization fund. John Souza, our finance director, is here this evening. He can explain to you how this transpires and also the amount requested. So I'll turn it over to John for a quick presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The reason for this article is as you recall, from past town meetings, we have a long-term financing plan to pay for all of the bonds for the sewer system construction that happened over many decades. It actually goes out through about fiscal year 31. And as the town manager described, as part of the plan, we've been collecting sewer capital improvement funds. It's actually that $5 surcharge that all sewer ratepayers that we all pay on our sewer bill. And those funds get deposited into a special account. Under Massachusetts general law, interest earned on all funds, unless otherwise provided in the law, flows into the general fund. So the reason that this article is necessary is that all the interest that we earned during the past fiscal year on our betterment funds and our sewer capital improvement fee revenue would otherwise just stay they would flow to the general fund, but they wouldn't actually be available. So what we did a few years back is we set up a sewer construction stabilization fund. And so that's the reason for bringing this before town meeting is we're asking town meeting to consider this money will come from free cash because it was deposited into the general fund, but it actually needs to be set aside to pay future years' debt service. So that's the reason for it.
Okay, so that's the presentation on Article 9. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate.
You
to
brought
ask.
that up the last time. You said that's a law, that it was like
Well,
400
right.
you were taking out of the free cash to pay that.
Exactly, right. It flows to the free cash because statutory it has to, and then, for as John said, the whole financing model on this has this taking into effect that the interest earnings on that fund go into paying the debt service. Otherwise, you're going to come up short years down the road because you wouldn't have the interest earnings going to pay that schedule. So that's Article 9. Article 10 is the MSBA project that is, which is the repairs of the portion of the South Row Elementary School roof. You may recall almost a half year ago now, the town applied to the school building authority under the accelerated repair program for the partial roof replacement at the school. Back in June, the Massachusetts School Building Authority, MSBA, voted to invite Chelmsford to participate in the program. How the program works is they choose the project manager and the designer for the project. We have to do the upfront application, provide all the details, which was actually submitted this end of last week by Melissa Joyce, our sustainability manager, with Gary Persichetti, with Dr. Lang at the schools, and so Kathleen Canavan, and so forth, to get all this documentation to the state, because at the end of the day is we get 50% reimbursement after we expend our money for the project. And the plan is to basically get the schematic design done over the winter, have it bid, and then be able to hit the ground running when the school year ends to do the project over the summer months. And that appears to be doable because two things happen. One is you get the window of doing it, and also you're bidding in a more favorable climate. If you go to the last image, it shows the sections of the roof that are in need of repair. All the previous sections have previously been addressed. So what you have are basically your peaked roofs where your cafeteria and gymnasium are, and you also have the kitchen area, which is number 5 there on the map. So you've got your kitchen area, your cafeteria, your gymnasiums. Again, it's roughly about a $400,000 project. Again, we've submitted documentation for the feasibility study, which I believe was roughly about $50,000, and then once that's completed, we'll then go to the stage, and then like most things with the state now, you submit all your requisitions along the way, they approve your payment, and then you get reimbursed 50% when it's completed. So anyway, you've heard about this when we were submitting the application. So that's Article 10. Article 11 is a request to transfer $95,000 in free cash for the purchase of a replacement breathing air compressor unit for the fire department. And I'm going to ask Gary Ryan, our fire chief, to come up and explain what this is and why this is coming before the town. And the slide there will give to the.
Great, thank you, Mr. Manager. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you for your consideration of this article. The compressor that we're looking to replace is used to fill the Scott bottles, the self-contained breathing bottles that you see the firefighters wear into a fire environment. During a June inspection of that compressor, we have it done quarterly. It failed the OSHA required requirements. And basically why it failed is because it needs a safety sensor to shut the machine down if it detects impurities being introduced into the bottle. So if it detects any carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide, it will shut the machine down. This current system does not have that. The current system is 21 years old with a 15-year life expectancy. So I think we've got our time out of this one. So the manager did ask me to take a look at what it would cost to bring the current machine up to compliance. It was $49,000. The new machine is $92,000. But the good news is the new machine has a life expectancy of 20 years.
Plus it has a safety feature, it won't shut down too, right? It won't.
This new machine will have that safety feature, correct.
Okay.
Any questions?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the next financial article, it's the rectangular rapid flashing beacons. We're seeking an $80,000 appropriation to purchase and install these beacons at crosswalks adjacent to the public schools and at the High Street intersection with the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. Specifically, the locations are basically we are listed there. We currently have these at Byram Road and at McCarthy at Old Westford Road, but basically we're looking to now complete the locations at South Row School at Boston Road, Center School, Billerica Road, McCarthy School at North Road, the high school at which is Richardson Road at Crooked Spring, and the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail at High Street. If you're familiar with the one on Golden Cove Road, that's the type of thing. And in fact, if you go to the next slide, you'll see what the unit looks like down there. That's basically what it is, and it's got the flashing, and it works off solar. It significantly increases driver yielding behavior at crosswalks. Unlike the one at Golden Cove Road, we have to push the button. These are motion activated. So, you know, because one of the frustrations I've often going down there is you get down there and the people don't use the button, they stand there. And these actually, you know, flash. And again, it's a way of improving safety at the school locations and at that location on the rail trail. So again, these things generally run about 15 or so thousand a piece, and so we're looking to do those locations. The next article, Article 13, is we get into two bituminous articles. The first one is $250,000 for the purchase and installation of the top coat on the exterior surface area of the Public Works facility on Alpha Road. We installed the binder coat 6 years ago in 2013, and it's in tough shape. Here's some photos that we have of there. Problem is, if you don't do this, we're going to lose the binder coat, which means you're going to have to go back and repair the binder or replace and put the top coat. And so you've got a couple more photos there. You can just see, you know, some of the close-ups. It's at the point now where we really shouldn't have waited this long. You can see their divots and potholes and everything consisting out there, so we basically want to go in there and put a top coat in. And the question is, well, gee, why did we wait this long? Because the DPW project, as approved by the town, was done in phases. We had sought originally to do the entire project under a debt exclusion. That was rejected. And so over the last decade, we've done it in phases. First, we acquired the land in the building, then we renovated the portion, then we did the salt sheds, then we did the expansion for for sewer, then we did the expansion for the mechanics, and now we're at the point where we really can't wait any longer for the binder coat. And so that's what we're seeking here under this article. Remember the word. Okay. And then the next article, Article 14, goes to the high school parking lot. We're seeking $550,000 for the resurfacing and installation of the remaining area of the parking lot. You may recall back at town meeting in 2018, spring town meeting, it was just over $1 million appropriation to resurface the rear high school parking lot area by the stadium and behind the school. We now are in a similar situation where the front of the school, and there's a photo here, just shows you can just see that that's now at the end of useful life. And again, we want to come in here and finish the entire high school parking lot area. And we realize it's a significant appropriation, it's a significant project. The reason we do this at this time is, again, it's one-time monies for one-time expenditures. And quite frankly, over the years, and we continue to have, we have a backlog of these significant infrastructure projects. I mean, even at the high school alone, we would now have addressed the parking lot areas. The next thing will probably be coming in a town meeting next spring is we really need to do the high school tennis and basketball courts. We almost had to cancel the program this past summer because the linear surfaces there were at a place of deterioration where it was hazardous to play ball. It cost us, I think it was $18,000 to go up there and make those areas suitable for for play this summer. And so again, that's coming in. And then even in addition to that, related to that, we've got to figure out the future of the McCarthy tennis courts. And then more so back at the high school, we have to address the high school track and field location at the high school. That track surface is at the end of its useful life. It doesn't meet today's standards for a track, meaning it isn't wide enough, it doesn't have the proper curves and so forth, which is why the high school does all of its meets and everything over at the McCarthy School. So we're working with Dr. Lang, the athletic director, Gary Persichetti, and so forth, and Brian Melissi and others to figure out what it is that we should do over there, and it may end up being a solution that hopefully has community buy-in. So so again, we point this out because again we realize that they're not insignificant projects, but when we look at the even though we're spending $3.5 million in capital every year, we're still not above water, given the studies that we've done in terms of the school facilities, technology, and others. So again, that's what the request is under Article 14 is to get the high school parking lot behind us and then really go to activities and infrastructure that actually affect students. So that's where that is. So that's Article 14, which then brings us to Article 15, which would be the placeholder article to use free cash to reduce the tax levy. I'm recommending no action on this article, and the same thing with the next article. I'm also not recommending any transfer of funds into the general stabilization fund. If you go to the next slide, you can see that.
Just to be clear, so if one of these previous articles gets voted down, that's where these would come into play.
Right, yeah. We would have a choice.
Yeah, I just want to make that clear to
or
the
we could do
public.
nothing. I mean, there's nothing that requires us to put the free cash anywhere. But the town's policy has always been to take the free cash, either utilize it or put it into the stabilization fund if you're going to hold on to it. And the reason is the stabilization fund takes a 2/3 vote to get out, whereas the free cash is only a majority vote. So it's more of a
But if
safeguard.
every one of these previous articles passes,
There'd be nothing left.
there'd be nothing left anyways.
Exactly. So that's the thought there. And why are we not saving is because you remember John just came and reported the interest on the town's sewer betterment and so forth and the sewer capital fee. We had a similar positive market for, again, the year that ended June 30th. If you remember, that was a pretty good market year, investments and bonds holdings and so forth. We're right now, we have a stabilization fund balance of $11.1 million. Again, with a $137 million operating budget, we're at 8.1%. Our target is around 7.5%, so we're in there because what happens is the budget will grow, because next year will probably be over $140 million budget. That 8.1% will go down closer to the 7.5%. So that's why we're not seeking any action at this point. And again, the other thing obviously is we really do see a pressing need for those infrastructure investments, and particularly at the high school and the DPW facility. So.
Is there any extra there, or a little bit for maybe for the sidewalks on Ledge Road and?
Well, that I think we'll do
Road?
at Chapter 90. If the board wishes us to address the install sidewalks on Ledge Road, we would two things. We could use Chapter 90 funds. Two, we could ask the legislature for appropriation in the budget. Or three, if it's more urgent, which I get the sense that it is, we could conceivably even borrow for that. But my sense is I know this discussion will take place because we can't obviously put sidewalks in before the winter.
Right.
But if the board is of the mind to install sidewalks on Ledge Road and a portion perhaps of Dunstable Road, then what we would do is that we'd ask DPW to do the engineering and design work to get that done in the next construction season. But so that's how we would do that. But I recognize that priority, but like I said, we're already way behind, and if we lose the what we have out there, it's going to be more costly in the long run.
Right.
So that is a possibility, George.
Okay.
All right, then, when you go to Article 17, you go to the community preservation articles. There's a few here. One is the next phase of the Roberts Field ball fields. It's $214,000 for the relocation and reconstruction and enhancement of the ball fields at Roberts Field. Evan Belansky is here. He can, I don't want to leave him out of this process. He can give you a quick overview of what's going on with the ball fields, but the map shows you that the plan is to flip the fields. And Evan, come on up, Evan. I don't, Steve, either one. Steve or Evan have been working on this. But Steve's been on the fields and played where Evan hasn't, so we'll let Steve speak.
That high. For the record, Stephen Yonley, Assistant Public Works Director. This is sort of the second phase of the master plan for the property that the board had adopted a couple of years ago. Obviously, the playground was done and is a huge success. But as part of that expansion of the playground, one of the baseball fields was lost. So with the master plan, it identified kind of flipping the soccer lacrosse field and the Little League fields, pulling the soccer lacrosse towards the front, pushing the Little League fields to the back, so the fences are kind of more along the tree line, as opposed to kind of right in the middle of the field where it was, they've been since 1973 or whatever, whenever they were built. So obviously this is full reconstruction, all new backstops, two new, as you just saw tonight, the 10 and 11-year-olds here with the Eastern Mass state title, they would be playing up here as well as down back on the Chelmsford Street fields. And as part of this, Friends of Roberts Field had secured $50,000 through the state budget for the perimeter kind of exercise circuit, the walking track and fitness equipment. I actually spoke to Senator Barrett's chief of staff last week, trying to figure out how that money becomes available for me, because it's perfect timing if this gets approved at town meeting, then I can build the fields and work my way out, and I can build the fitness circuit, all the new equipment, instead of having put that in and then be coming through all that to redo the field. So it's perfect timing on that. And really, this is, in talks, this was kind of the hope when the playground was there and baseball lost that field. I was kind of hoping within that 2 or 3 year window they would have new fields up there, because one of the field closer to the pond gets a little unplayable early in the spring, stays a little wet. So able to pull this back, regrade, take some of the kind of, if you're familiar with the property, it's got some kind of whoop-dees as you get close to the firehouse there. I don't know what else to call it. Yeah, very technical. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much, any questions?
Pictures of it.
Does that budget still have to be approved?
By town meeting. CPC has approved it.
No, I mean, the state's approved the 50,000?
Yes, that's already been approved in the budget. That's in effect right now.
So just to back up to that, when I spoke to Senator Barrett's chief of staff, he said those earmark funds on those small things like that usually get released towards the end of September, beginning of October. Works like a state contract, he said, like we do with a lot of other things. So the process is pretty similar. So again, just if approved, we're gonna be doing the survey work this fall just to get out in front of it. I can do some permitting over the winter, because I'll have the pond on the property. I have some conservation restrictions there. I got to get approved. I'll maybe get in, drill the well in the spring, because a part of this budget is well and irrigation for everything. If I get that, I can start field construction kind of middle of the summer, be ready for loom and seed come Labor Day-ish, and get a good grow on the grass through the fall. And then we'll see how it takes, if, allow people to play on it in the spring, but at worst case, it'd be the following fall when the grass really establishes.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
The next article, CPC article, is for construction, planning and design for future construction of a pedestrian bridge across Beaver Brook in the town center. It's a request for $60,000, and Evan's going to come up on this one. He's been sort of shepherding this project. We had applied for a grant funding for this project, but we were not funded under that. But the goal was to keep this effort moving forward, particularly with the work on the Brook Walk already underway in the center.
Good evening, Evan Belansky, Director of Community Development. So as Paul mentioned, this is a follow-up to an unsuccessful state grant application. What is being proposed is for the exact same purpose that the state grant application was applied for purposes of hiring a consultant to work with the town, a dedicated committee, to prepare a feasibility study, preliminary design, engineering, budgeting for a woodland trail and associated new bridges over the Beaver Brook. This area is about 3 acres. It's located behind Brick House, as well as behind the new Grist Mill apartment building that's being constructed. It borders the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, as well as land trust properties. However, as I mentioned, there's a feasibility study, so no physical work is being proposed. This effort is supported by, obviously, the Community Preservation Committee, as well as the Center Village Committee, Conservation Commission, and Land Trust. That support is based upon letters of support that were provided as part of the state grant application. As I previously mentioned, we envisioned that a dedicated committee would be established, made up of representatives from the Center Village Master Planning Committee, Conservation, Land Trust, likely a member from DPW to assist with the coordination of bridge design and feasibility work associated with that, as well as several other members from the community at large. As I mentioned, if successful, additional CPC funds would be sought for fabrication, installation, permitting, things of that nature to implement the recommendations of a feasibility study.
So Evan, on that map, where's the 60,000 going?
So the $60,000 is going to study this area. So what this map displays, it was created as part of the state grant application. It requires you to prepare a plan kind of explaining your vision. So the $60,000 would go towards identifying an approximate location of a primary bridge. Once agreement is made on the location, then surveying, engineering, and budgeting, design the actual bridge. Then feasibility, design, and engineering for a woodland trail. Much of this land is land trust property, grist mill property, and some additional private property. And the final piece is the feasibility and design of the secondary bridge.
So this is worded like it's only for the bridge, but you're actually studying a larger part.
Correct. Yeah, as I mentioned, it's for the feasibility and design for the woodland trail, as well as 2 associated bridges.
Thank you.
Any other additional questions on this one?
How long is that trail?
So the entire circuit, including Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, would be about a quarter mile.
So Grist Mill, I thought, for some reason in the back of my mind, I thought Grist Mill was going to have to pay for that first bridge, but
Grist Mill is committed to building this red trail segment as part of their project on their property. They're also committed to working closely with the town to implement the secondary bridge. The commitments are to be determined.
okay. So on a project that's just about done, it's still to be determined.
To be determined, primarily because it was agreed upon that it didn't make a lot of sense to put in a bridge if the rest of the vision
Trail was not
wasn't
built.
correct.
That would be the bridge to nowhere.
All right, so if the rest of it, if we somehow find a way, build a trail, and put in that second bridge, they're committed to the first bridge?
So the commitment's to be determined. So it could be as simple as contribution, financial contribution that's put into a dedicated account. The timing of this article is fairly good timing in the sense that Grist Mill is likely to be occupied in October, will be initial occupancy, and then final occupancy could be extended for up to 12 additional months. In communications with the developer, they expect to remain part of the condo association for an extended period of time. So
I would assume once they have their occupancy permits, negotiating the cost of whatever they're going to participate.
So, I think if you go back to the initial kind of project approval, they bought into the vision.
Mhm.
They want to see the vision implemented. But at the time, dating back, 2.5, 3 years ago, this was simply a vision. With the approval of town meeting to move forward with the feasibility study, that likely could be expedited while Grist Mill is still being developed and occupied, and there'd be some very good coordination. Representatives from Grist Mill could actually be on the
Yeah.
the dedicated committee.
But prior to occupancy, I would assume we have more leverage than once they get their occupancy permits.
So the leverage is a condition in the planning board special permit. It just wasn't itemized. It was, commit to working with the town and via implementation, with easements, permitting, survey, design, could be installation. So there's a variety of options.
Right, but none of that so far sounds quantifiable.
Correct.
Just being clear. Okay.
It's a work in progress.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, let's stay up there. The next article is another Community Preservation Fund article. It's $100,000 from the Community Preservation Fund General Reserve for the creation of a facade improvement program for buildings located in the town center and Vinyl Square.
Want to just forward the slides? Great, thank you. So this effort has been several years in the making. Some of you may have heard about it at various committee meetings. So the first question that's likely to be asked is, why would the town consider spending a public subsidy on private property? And as this slide indicates, the town has well over 40 years of historic preservation planning, starting with in the early 60s, the Historical Commission was adopted, followed up in 75 with the Center Village Historic District Commission and the district itself, an adoption of a demolition delay bylaw. This recommendation is consistent with the 2010 master plan, as well as the Center Village and North Village Village Center master plans. It's also consistent with the 2013 historical and cultural preservation plan. And more recently, the town has used town and state funding to continue to do historic preservation surveys. This slide indicates kind of a high-level program overview. The program has been developed in close coordination with the Chelmsford Historical Commission and then the Community Preservation Commission. So it would provide grants to building owners, and in some cases in conjunction with business owners located in the Center Village as well as Vinyl Square designated districts. This would be a grant only applicable to commercial properties. Religious organizations as well as single-family properties would not be eligible. As the article mentioned, we are seeking $100,000 to be divided evenly between both districts. The project program proposes that each project could receive up to $10,000 upon approval from the appropriate design review committee for purposes of the historic district in the center. The district commission would be the design review committee. For purposes of North Chelmsford Vinyl Square, the historical commission would be the design review committee. And for any property located outside the historic district, but within the Center Village District, the Historical Commission would be the Design Review Committee. The process will require the applicant or proponent to obtain, to fund upfront costs associated with preparing plans, submitting applications, and attending meetings. We anticipate this not to exceed $3,000 based upon similar projects in the Historic District. Essentially, this could be viewed as a 30% local match. So because we are proposing to use community preservation funds, this program is not, cannot be viewed or treated as a typical facade improvement program. It's not a beautification program. It's not a modernization program. CPC funds are required to comply with the Secretary of Interior's standards for rehabilitation. The town has experience with this, both the North Town Hall as well as the Center Town Hall, both used CPC funds, and the town had to comply with these standards. So the District Commission as well as the Historical Commission both have experience with these standards. In an effort to protect the public investment, a 10-year preservation agreement will be executed by the building owner and the town. That legal document is a fairly boilerplate document that has been developed and reviewed. The final bullet on this page reemphasizes the applicable design review committees that would be responsible for each district. Next slide graphically displays both proposed districts. On the left is the Center Village designated district, and on the right is the North Village designated district. These districts have, again, been reviewed by the applicable town committees, Historic District Commission, Historical Commission, Center Village Master Planning, as well as North Village Master Planning, have all reviewed these maps. Next slide. So as I mentioned, the projects need to comply with the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation. The first bullet is the definition, copy and pasted directly from Community Preservation Act, as well as the Secretary of Interior. The second series of bullets is some examples as to eligible work that may be proposed and approved. What you'll see here is that the intent of the program, as I mentioned, is not beautification or modernization, but to restore or rehabilitate historically accurate elements of the facade. Items that are not eligible would be deferred maintenance, leasehold improvements, exterior parking lot improvements, or simple things like exterior cleaning and painting. Next slide indicates the application process. It's a multi-stepped application process. The intent of the process at the beginning is to make sure that an applicant or a potential applicant fully understands what the program requirements will be. They understand the commitments. There'll be a grant application with a filing fee. Much of the program administration will be done through my office. And then as I mentioned, the review and approvals will be done by the design review committees. There will be a required grant agreement. That's a legal document that's signed and codifies. The approval will require price quotes. 2 price quotes will be required by the program. Those will be reviewed by myself, the building commissioner, as well as the applicable committee. All permits will be required. We anticipate these to require building permits. There may be some electrical permits that are needed. We will not waive any permit fees. Those will be part of the upfront costs that the applicant will be responsible for. Construction review will take place at approximately 50% and 100% during the project. That will be done by myself, the building commissioner, as well as applicable members of the design review committee. At the end of the process, the program requires that the facade preservation agreement be recorded with the Registry of Deeds. Be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have on this program.
Thank you, Evan. Thank you. Article 20 is the final financial article. This has to do with the Sewer Enterprise Fund funding. We're seeking a $565,500 appropriate transfer from the Sewer Enterprise Fund free cash. Remember how the Enterprise Fund works is all sewer rates and revenues and operations go within a contained fund, and at the end of the year, any balance stays with the fund. We're seeking to use $565,000. We now are at the point where the new sewer system across the community needs to go back and revisit and address some of the original pump station equipments. And Steve Yonley, who's here this evening, has been working with John Souza developing a multi-year capital plan for that. We have 36 sewer pump stations across the community. These are some of the original ones going back into the late 80s. And Steve can come up and explain what's going on here. We also have some photos for you.
Good evening again. So what this is this is gonna be for work on 4 of the pump stations. 2 of them will get complete overhauls. One is just getting a new control panel and a generator, and the 4th one is just kind of some design and engineering work, because it's gonna need a different type of building. The 2 of the ones that are full replacement is Lord and Vincent. I think the first picture might be the one on Lord Road. As you see, there's a small cabinet with some electronics, the electric meter, things like that. The cabinet to the left is the generator. The controls and all that, most of the electronics for the station are down in the wet well under this hatch here in the front. So the stuff's in a harsh environment, obviously. It deteriorates quicker. These stations were built or went online in 1993. So as part of the comprehensive capital assessment plan the sewer division did about 3 years ago, these were identified, for structures. I know, Mike, can you go down a few pictures? Maybe the next one. I'll have to move you around. Just keep going down, Mike. So that one there, up in North Chelmsford by the State Pit, that's Western Ave Station. That's one that the sewer division just did. Looks similar to the ones I was just showing you on Lord and Vincent. That there, it's basically like a larger garden shed, but everything goes inside. The control panel's inside, the electronics are inside, the generator's inside. Everything's enclosed in that building, as opposed to separate, little structures, and then having all the controls for the station down in a wet well. So this is kind of the standard thing that was done at the end of the sewer project, the last, few contracts for the sewer project. So this is what, as we replace these stations, this is what we're transitioning to. That would be Lord and Vincent down off of Mill Road. The other one was Weed Street over by the Glenview. If you go back up, Mike. This one here, that was done as a block building. That needs a generator's original. That station went online in 1988. So that generator is going to be replaced. And then also the control panel. Sewer division, Mike, the operations manager, he's designed his own control panel with shifting to all these and all the stations. So everything is a standard control panel, all the same, each station. So when we do the generator upgrade, we're going to do the control panel upgrade in this station as well. And the last one is this here. This is Myland Ave down off of Dalton Road. This station here, we want to do a little bit of design and engineering work first because of the location of this station. That way down the end of Myland Ave at the cul-de-sac backs up to the large swamp wetland off of Smith Street. It's a very damp environment down there, and we're concerned that the regular shed type structure, wood type structure won't work. So we're going to try to spec either a precast concrete or a block built building for this one. So we want to get out in front of that a little bit with some design work and get a spec, and then probably the following year capital we will bid that
What
one
would
out.
you do to the inside of that if it's gonna be brick near a swamp? Isn't it gonna be moist in there?
We were more concerned with, we can get a dehumidifier to get rid of moisture like that. We're more concerned with the wooden stuff rotting and twisting and warping in the damp environment down there. But hopefully, any question like that we'll shake out when we start doing the design work.
So each one of these generators that you're showing has to be serviced, I assume, correct?
Yep, we
Couple
service
times a
them
year?
internal.
Excuse me?
We service them internally. We have, the sewer division has their own generator service tech.
Okay, and he goes around and services all
Yep.
35 of them.
Yep. As well as the ones that, like out back here, our own building.
And we never outsource the service on that stuff.
Only if it's something he can't handle, but Gary might be able to speak better if there was something we needed some additional assistance with, but I'm not sure we've contracted anything out other than install. And I think the one in our building, he installed himself, so.
Okay.
So Steve, how long does it take if you're rebuilding one of these? How long does that take to do that?
Well, we took a few lumps on Western Ave. It took a little bit longer over there, plus the timing of that was bad with as I know the board's aware, the National Grid strike. We had kind of disconnected that and started the rebuild, and when we went for the reconnect of the gas, they were on strike. So it sat. That was on backup generator power for a long time. Typically once we get going on this and it's decided, it's probably like a 6-month turnaround each one, roughly.
Okay, and when one is down, obviously it services that neighborhood, there's sufficient capacity.
Yeah, so they stay operational.
Oh, okay.
While the news, because, you know, the pumps and everything like that is still in the ground, still operational. So as we're ready, then there's a transfer.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not like it will be down for 6, yeah, no.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you,
Thank you.
Steve. Okay, the next article, Article 21, is a amendment to the town charter to change the language in the town charter from Board of Selectmen to Select Board. That's Article 21. Again, obviously, the board's familiar with that article. Article 22 is where we begin the first of 8 zoning articles. The first article is Article 22, and this relates to the Route 40 Groton Road rezoning. And I see members of our planning board here this evening. Nancy, you want to come up? Is Mike? Okay.
He's out of town.
Okay. Oh, Evan, you want to?
Mike was going to be here?
I guess Mike's out of town.
I thought Pam was going to be here.
So we don't, I'm not sure we have anyone here who's, you want
Nancy
to do
was
the
on the
presentation? I thought,
Nancy was on the committee.
Nancy was on the
you
committee.
want to handle the presentation, or
I didn't want to, but I will if it's needed.
up to you?
We can pull up the study committee report if that would help you, Nancy.
It would.
Okay.
Yeah, it would. Okay, Nancy Arroway, Planning Board and Route 40 Study Committee. I'm going to try to jump through this report fairly fast because it is pretty long. If you go forward. The Route 40 Study Committee was formed last fall as a result of an initiative to do rezoning on the Route 40 area. And the public comments that we got back. At that time, the planning board, instead of taking that article forward, formed a study committee. It was made up of a member of the Board of Selectmen, 2 planning board members, and 4 residents from the North Chelmsford area. We had our first meeting in September. We had a total of 16 meetings over 9 months. We brought in a host of subject matter experts to provide information on zoning and potential utilizations for that area. Keep going. These are the various invited guests that we had. As you can see, we had everything from Historical Commission to the Housing Authority to the town manager, conservation, water department, etc. So we really did try to get a very rounded view of potential uses. We looked at 7 different zoning options. They're spelled out on this. They're shown on this report graphically. What we finally ended up with as a recommendation was to leave the south side alone. Don't change it. It is currently RC, which is 2-family, zone 2-family, and we determined that we should leave it that way. That was the best use to become a buffer to the changes in zoning on the north side. For the north side, the Route 40 Committee's recommendation was to change the zoning for the frontage properties. These properties are currently also RC, or Zone 2 family, and we recommended that they be changed to IA to join with the, to be contingent with the, contiguous with the IA in the rest of that north property. So you can see on On the right-hand side, left-hand side is what it is today, right-hand side is what we recommended. The first article for zoning for Route 40 is exactly this. It changes those frontal properties to IA zoning. In addition to changing these to IA, we felt that for development purposes, for optimum development purposes, we needed to add some additional options for types of development. As an IA property, the CEIOD automatically applies to it, and that in itself provides options over and above the standard IA zoning. Can you jump back to the other? Okay.
I'm on here, I'm not sure why. It's like there's a delay almost.
Oh, it's not there, Mike.
Yeah, I know. This is what's on here. I can't tell you why it's not there.
It's a function thing again.
Yeah, but I've got a PC up there. It hasn't been working right all night. We'll try this.
There you go.
Good. Okay. So Article 23. Try again. Thank you. Article 23 is the second piece of this. It is independent from the IA additional properties, but by passing Article 22, it incorporates more properties into the use of this overlay. So that that north section that is IA has all of the potential development opportunities of an light industrial area. It also has all of the potential development opportunities of the CEIOD. And the largest need that we heard from all of those people that came before us to present needs and options was the need for senior housing and senior care facilities. And this article adds yet another set of options as an overlay to that IA area on the north side. So this is a continuing care community overlay district. It is drafted to be specific to the Route 40 North area. It could certainly be tweaked to apply to other areas in town, but we are putting it forward in this article for the Route 40 area. It allows for all types of senior housing, convalescent facilities, and it also allows for accessory commercial uses to that senior housing element. So it allows for limited space, limited size restaurants. It allows for things like banks or barbershops, whatever, that would be accessory to a senior community. As an overlay, it would apply to each property submittal that would come before the planning board. All of these, because they're IA, are planning board reviewed. And under any of these overlays, they're evaluated on their individual merits for benefits to the community. Questions?
We then move on to the next zoning article, which is Article 24, and that is more simply defined. This is to amend the COA district to allow multifamily and industrial areas.
That's a good summary. There's not much more to say on this one.
Much
Move
more
along anyways.
straightforward. But Evan can show you graphically where it's going.
Yeah, so So currently, multifamily is prohibited in IA zoning districts as part of the COID. As the town manager mentioned, this article is seeking to delete that prohibition, which would permit multifamily within all IA zoning districts via special permit from the planning board. The map on the right is the town zoning map. IA zoning districts are designated in gray. Those include Brick Hill Road, Technology, Princeton, Middlesex, Watton, and Groton Road. The reason I'm not mentioning Billerica 129 is that the Route 129 overlay already separately allows for multifamily via special permit from the planning board.
That's Princeton Street?
Yeah, up near,
In North Chelmsford?
up the mill, yep.
So that runs from, does that run all the way to where North Road ends at the lights?
Can get to the mic.
You're talking mostly
Oh,
about
I'm
the
sorry.
back, aren't you? Towards the lake, with it, you know what I mean?
No, the lake's that way.
You're at the railroad tracks.
Yep, I'm talking right near, behind the mill on, is Middlesex Street, there's a portion of IA.
I just didn't know if you meant the entire road
It's
of
not the
Princeton.
entire road, no.
Okay. I'll have to look at a closer map to see exactly where that begins and ends, but.
Behind the other side, though, it goes back, doesn't it, where you could put a couple of apartment buildings back there?
Back where? Behind UMass West? Is that what you've heard?
No, behind Gillette's property there.
No, Gillette's property is owned commercial. Right here,
So it's all that light gray.
correct. This is Princeton Middlesex Street, there's Watton, a portion of Tingsboro, Groton, Technology, and Brick Hill.
Evan, during the public hearing, someone raised a concern about setback and height requirements for this versus the underlying zoning. Can you comment on what the difference is?
So via the COID, multifamily is treated to use the same underlying zoning requirements. So in IA zoning districts, you can have a 4-story building not to exceed 45 feet in height. And then via COID, that can be modified via flexibility.
Thank you. Article 25 is zoning article pertaining to pre-existing non-conforming residential lots.
Okay. So this article is in reference to section 195.8 in our zoning bylaw. Couple important items to keep in mind when you're reviewing and considering this. It only pertains to 1 and 2 family structures that are pre-existing non-conforming. Currently, the zoning bylaw requires compliance with current zoning standards. Upwards of 80% of all lots and structures are pre-existing non-conforming, so they automatically fall into section 198.5. And by falling into a pre-existing non-conforming structure, many projects for 1 and 2 single-family homes require special permits from the Zoning Board of Appeals. That process obviously has costs and schedules associated with it. And ultimately, 99% of projects from the Zoning Board of Appeals do receive approvals. What is being proposed is that rather than require compliance with current 2019 standards for pre-existing non-conforming structures, the bylaw would base zoning standards on the year the structure was built. This would result in projects being more compatible with the existing historical character of those neighborhoods when those neighborhoods were built. In addition, the bylaw would delete an existing sliding scale based upon an increase in the increase to the structure. The Zoning Board of Appeals is supportive of this grant application. And when we were discussing this with the Finance Committee, a couple items came to light. One was that it obviously reduces the current workload of the Zoning Board of Appeals. It reduces burdens to existing Chelmsford residents that are located in single and two-family residents. And the third item is that this article is following the trends and I guess values or expectations or desires of the residents who reside in single and two-family dwellings in Chelmsford.
Article 26 is minor updates to the cluster open space bylaw, and we have a summary of that as well.
So very briefly, planned open space development is often referred to as cluster subdivision. There's 4 minor amendments that are being proposed. First one is to allow planned open space to be permitted by right rather than a special permit from the planning board. Second is to reduce the minimum qualifying acreage in order to be eligible to apply from 10 acres down to 5 acres. The third is that if you are reducing the total acreage, it also makes sense to reduce one of the provisions associated with perimeter setbacks of structures. That would be reduced from 100 feet to 75 feet. And the fourth amendment is to propose to allow the open space, which is required currently to be contiguous and on-site, to be non-contiguous and off-site via special permit from the planning board. A couple items to keep in mind that are very important with this article. It does not increase any density or make undevelopable land developable. This is land that's already zoned for single and two-family development. Ultimately, this bylaw would promote the creation of protected open space and agricultural lands by reducing the 10 acres down to 5 acres. To put that into some context, we've done an analysis. There are approximately 15 parcels in Chelmsford that are vacant and at least 5 acres vacant. There are 23 parcels in Chelmsford that have an existing single-family house on them, but also have at least 6 acres. So those
What was the total of that?
23. So that gives you an indication as to how many parcels would potentially be eligible by reducing the 10 acres down to 5 acres. Again, as I mentioned, what's important to remember here is that all cluster planned open space developments require 25% of the land area to be dedicated as open space.
What's the motivation for changing it to by right instead of just holding it as a special permit?
So the primary motivation is that a special permit, by definition, for a developer or an investor, is viewed as legal exposure, meaning it can be appealed. Because the cluster open space bylaw is drafted in a way that it's very rigid, there's not a lot of flexibility other than the open space. The planning board thought that if the goal of this is to encourage developers to pursue development under the open space in exchange for receiving public open space, allowing it by right made more sense. You're trying to create a level playing field where a developer can do traditional development. It's non-open space cluster. They can go definitive subdivision, whereby if the engineering complies with the town standards, the permit will be granted. That's how most development in Chelmsford occurs. So in order to encourage developers to choose to do subdivision under the Zoning Act, the planning board thought it made sense to remove that special permit and allow it by right.
There's also been some substantive discussion around the ability to donate non-contiguous land to that open space and whether or not that should have some proximity to where the development is. And right now it doesn't call for that. And so I guess what are the options? Is this Like, is there an urgency to push it through without that consideration? Because it sounded like it was like, let's get this through and then let's consider it for the next town meeting to update it again. And
So I'm
I'm
aware
just
that
a little
I'm aware that the
confused
planning
about-
board had a conversation about that. It wasn't a very detailed conversation.
Right.
There are, of the 15 and the 23, there are even fewer property owners that own multiple acreage around town. So you're talking about a subset, a much smaller subset of the 15 and 23 that are eligible. Of that small subset would be, those would be the ones in conversation about non-contiguous or off-site. It's a very, very small percentage of eligible properties that would own 5 acres in one location where they're going to do the actual physical development and then have 2 or 3 or 4 acres somewhere else in town where they're interested in classifying that as open space. So I don't want
Is the fundamental intent behind this, though, that the open space is near the cluster or with the development, even though it doesn't require that?
The current bylaw requires that 25% of the development on site be dedicated open space.
Okay.
During deliberation as part of creating this bylaw, the planning board did want to provide the option, even though there's a very few property owners in town that would be in a place to do business in this manner, would allow the opportunity to have a conversation about dedicating off-site open space. So in some cases, you could see where there may be a property owner who owns an acre or two adjacent to existing conservation land, ag land, and that would make a lot of sense. But my point to stress to you and the community is that there are very, very few opportunities. There are a handful of property owners that continue to own multiple vacant properties around town, but it's not the majority of the 15 or the 23.
Okay, thank you.
But that's, they could acquire property for that purpose. Basically, it's called linkage. It's been around for
Yeah,
decades.
you could call it transfer of development rights, linkage. I think for purposes of Chelmsford, where the town has an aggressive interest in preserving, promoting, enhancing agricultural opportunity, allowing this flexibility, many of those subset of these property owners were farmers or are farmers. So you can if you go look at a town map, you'll see that interdispersed through the community, there's an acre of land here or an acre and a half here. They're held in common ownership. Not a lot of properties, not a lot of property owners, but there is a subset.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Article 27 is Historical Preservation Reuse Zoning Bylaw Amendment. At the end of all the language of the article is Nancy's presentation, so she'll walk you through that. And she made a slight change from what was in the package. I'll just put on her updated one, because it was meant to summarize some of the points that were raised last Thursday. So.
And I'm going to give you some slightly larger maps. Which are still not big enough, but.
Thank you.
Can you find it?
Yeah, we'll pull it up here. Way down.
There we go.
There it is.
All right. Okay, so Article 27 is an update to the article that was presented at town meeting last fall that was turned down. It has had a number of changes to it based on what we heard from the public. This article is being sponsored by both the Planning Board and the Historical Commission at this point. So the purpose of this article is to provide zoning options and regulations for the preservation and reuse of historic structures. It specifically addresses residential structures. The reasons we're doing it, the master plan identified the need to promote preservation through zoning. The demolition bylaw provides a delay on the destruction of these properties, but has not been fully effective in preventing them from being razed. It becomes a bit of a nuisance to put a one-year stop on development, but it certainly does not stop the destruction and replacement of the properties. The changes in our building and environmental codes has made it extremely expensive to maintain these properties. With the change in demographics, there's less interest by individual homeowners in investing in the properties. Personally, I put a lot of my income in it, a lot of my time in it, but I can't imagine my kids doing it. And it's just true. The land, in many cases in Chelmsford, has a higher valuation than the structures, making replacement profitable for our investors. And because we cannot forbid property owners from tearing these properties down, the only thing we can do is provide bonuses to them, incentives to maintain those properties. The historic preservation article provides several incentives. One, it provides an incentive of an additional living unit to be added to qualifying properties. It also provides an incentive to split a lot into two subsized lots. Now, in return for these bonuses, the property owner is required to put the property under preservation restrictions. This is a lien on the property. It is a contract. And this only applies to properties that are listed on historic registers. So the map that I gave you, if you take a look at it, everything on this map currently, under the current bylaws, is permitted to be converted to a two-family because of its age. That two-family conversion has absolutely no preservation restrictions attached to it. For about 100 properties out of this set that have been deemed to be historically significant, this bylaw allows a conversion to three families or a conversion to split a lot. On the map that you see, there are about 625 properties that are permitted under current bylaw to be converted to two families. There's an additional 279 properties that have already been converted These have been converted to anything from 2 families to 8 families. And there's 108 properties that would qualify under this bylaw to be converted to a 3-family. So what does it take? Well, it takes a lot that is at least 50% of the required zoning size. It takes a building that is large enough to put that many units in, based on our standard, on the zoning standards for the size of dwelling units for apartments. It takes a property that has appropriate space to put parking for that many units out of the front yard. And it takes a development plan that includes restoration of the exterior of the structure approved by the Historical Commission. There's a couple slides in here that show some examples of properties that have been lost. There's another slide that shows properties that have been converted that most of us can relate to. Let's see, do you have the next slide in here? Okay, this is a summary. The FinCom asked for this slide last week that describes the changes from the previous version that was submitted at Fall Town Meeting last year. So this version eliminates an extra 3 units in accessory structures. That version had permitted up to 6 dwelling units on a fully conforming lot. And those extra 3 units have been eliminated. The previous version used the demolition bylaw qualifications of 75 years old. This version drops that age and instead ties this to the pre-1938 time frame that is applicable to the 2-family by rights. It limits properties that can be considered for these bonuses to properties that are on the town, state, or national historic register, thereby requiring that the properties are evaluated and determined to have historic significance before they can apply for the special permits to qualify for this. It has tightened up on the requirements for the preservation restrictions, the legal contract that requires them to maintain the properties. And it includes the data that you see in front of you on the specific properties that are affected. The last slide I have in here is included because everybody's worried about a half-size lot. This is from the assessor's database, and this gives you an idea of how big our lots really are in Chelmsford. So for RA residential properties, almost 10% of our lots conform to the required amount of space. 73% of them are less than 50% of the required size. For RB properties, 40% are compliant. This one's higher. But that still leaves 33% of them, a whole third, that are less than 50% of the requirements for an RB lot. And for RC, 35% are less than 50% of the size. So when you think about, is this a big enough lot? Think about what we really have for lot sizes in Chelmsford. Thank you.
So you can't, I just have a couple of questions. You can't implement the 3-family housing without reducing lot sizes.
We would have so few properties that would qualify, that it wouldn't be worth putting through the bylaw. That's the reality of it.
And is anyone looking at other non-zoning types of incentives for the historic homeowners, tax incentives, other things like that?
Historical Commission has been looking at these for at least 6 or 7 years that I know of. I had worked with them in response to the 2010 master plan to do a historic, cultural, and I don't know, something, preservation plan. And there were a lot of action items that came out of that they have indeed investigated. But one of the very specific actions was to look at what can we do from a zoning standpoint to preserve these properties. And the bottom line is we can't prevent it because it's private property. We can only incentivize it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the Article 28, Evan's going to come up and give a quick summary of this. This is to eliminate the sign advisory committee.
So this article is fairly straightforward. It proposes to delete the sign advisory committee. This committee is specifically referenced within the sign bylaw, within the zoning bylaw. The sign advisory committee is specifically tasked with reviewing all applications for a variance that go to the Zoning Board of Appeals and providing a recommendation. The sign advisory committee is made up of 5 committee members. However, over the last number of extended years, there's been 3 or less members at any one given time. They've been meeting fairly infrequently due to quorum issues. The Zoning Board of Appeals is supportive of this amendment. Essentially, very infrequently is the sign advisory committee making a recommendation in which the zoning board would be against or not supportive of. So that's this article in a nutshell. Thank you.
Thank you, Evan.
Thanks, Evan.
Okay, we're nearing the end. Article 29 is no action. That was a zoning article regarding rear lots. Article 30 is an article that was brought forward by Regina Jackson, our veterans agent. She worked with Frank Green, our assessor. Regina, unfortunately, was unable to be here this evening. This is the acceptance of a state statute that was adopted, I think, last year ago at Veterans Day as part of the veterans effort by the legislature and the governor. And what it does is, as the title suggests, it exempts real estate taxes for parents or guardians of deceased active service members. So what this applies to in Chelmsford is basically only 2 currently applicable properties, and you've got a total exemption of less than $20,000 to the community. So it's again, a means of assisting those who've given the ultimate sacrifice to the community and to the country. Article 31 is brought forth in consultation with the town clerk. This, again, is an acceptance of a state statute that's been in effect for a couple of years, and this waives the fee for a license for a dog that's owned by a person age 70 or older. Go back. There are basically 4,700 licensed dogs in town. 371 of them are owned by persons age 70 or older. So again, it doesn't eliminate the license requirement, it just means that they waive the fee. Sort of what, kind of like we were talking earlier about waiving fees for licenses for nonprofits and so forth. And so again, this would affect our dog license fees of about $6,000. So again, it's a way of providing assistance for those on limited incomes in the community. And again, we've seen neighboring communities such as Westford and Acton and others adopt this. And there seem to be no issues in terms of that, because they still have to come in and license dogs, show the rabies and everything else. It just waives the fee for those owners. And then the final article, the patiently been waiting, the recycling committee. This is the retail use of single-use plastic checkout bags, and they have a brief presentation in your packet, which I imagine one of them will come up and present on the article, so we could get to the presentation part, Mike. That's the article language.
I think they can all come up.
Yeah, okay, go ahead. Keep going, yeah. The presentation right there.
So I'm Aaron Cunningham, current chair of the recycling committee, and we're not going to, it's late, we're not going to go through this line by line. You've already had a chance to talk about it. What I'd really like to do is get to the highlights of it and then answer any questions. The ultimate goal today here is to, get favorable support from the Board of Selectmen and recommending this at town meeting. So the purpose of the warrant article, really kind of three things for us was, we want to reduce the use of the bags in town, often grocery bags, thin film plastic bags, there's a number of ways you can call them, and then promote the use of reusable bags. And ultimately what this is doing is showing the town's commitment to the environment, the health or economy. We're known as a green community. This is a step in the right direction to continue to live up to that commitment. So what we'll be asking town meeting reps for is a yes vote. And I want to be very clear what a yes vote means. A yes vote means we're going to eliminate the use of these plastic bags in town. What it does not mean is we are not eliminating the plastic bags that you put your meat in or your fresh veggies in. We're not eliminating your dry cleaning bags or the bags you put fish in. Those are the bags that you, even when you go to the store today, you put them in those bags, then you go put them in your plastic bags. And there's a reason why those bags are there. It's to protect those other foods that are in with the rest of your non-perishable stuff. Next slide. So just a quick update on kind of where the city and towns of Massachusetts are. 122 as of a couple days ago of our 351 towns are under some sort of restriction for these. That may not seem like a lot because it's not more than 300. However, it represents a significant majority of the population. So 75% or more of the residents of Massachusetts are currently under some sort of plastic bag restriction. Notable ones are our neighbors, Billerica, Acton, Westford, Burlington, Bedford, Concord, and even Boston. So Boston's managed to survive without these bags. There is a state bill, there's a lot of talk, it comes up every year, that's going through. It's currently being redrafted. It did not make it out of committee last year. It may not make it this year up for a vote. However, with the progress it's making and the number of people that have signed onto it, in the next year to 2, maybe 3 years, there's going to be something coming down from the state to reduce these bags statewide. New York, California, and Hawaii are currently the states that have full statewide bans. New York just went, and they'll be reducing the use of those here pretty quickly. Common concerns that come up with these types of things where we say we don't want to use these plastic bags. Number one, a lot of people say, if you give me the reusable bags, they're going to get overpacked. I can't carry them. They're too heavy. Even today, because I use these bags, I will often have the bagger say, do you want this packed heavy or light? And it's your choice at that point. I also think if you're going there and they forget to ask, because a lot of times they're kids, just simply say, pack the bags light. Or like I do, I don't want to carry a lot. I say, fill them until they break. So I think some of this is already going on because there's so many communities around us where this is already happening. The other thing is the cost of the reusable bags. So I think if you guys shop in most of our stores you'll see a branded store bag from anywhere from 10 cents to $2. I agree that it can be burdensome on many folks in the community. So what the recycling committee has done is we've been using grant funding to have reusable bags made with the Chelmsford logo recycles. So we have some samples Cynthia has. And what we've been doing is if you come to the farmers markets, you can pick up these bags for free. They fold up nice and neatly. Oops, this one's backwards. And we have, Cynthia brought a whole bunch down to the food pantry out back, so we're making sure we're taking care of folks. All of these bags are fully, they're fully recyclably compliant. They're made with the proper inks and in the proper manner. And as long as we can continue to get grant funding, we will continue to order
and distribute these bags. However, I think we're going with all maroon because that is by far the most popular color. Another concern that comes up, like I said earlier, is the plastic. Next slide, please. Is the contamination. The reality is that there's one often cited study for people getting sick from these bags, and more times than not, that study's been refuted by other studies. In addition to, it didn't pass very many peer reviews, so we often discount that. But there are some basic facts. You should be wiping out your bags. You should be putting your meats in the plastic bags that are provided, that are not being banned. And it's just, kind of common sense. So there's not a list of people that are dying because they're putting meats into their reusable bags and they're not being cleaned. Those are just not factual items. Next slide, please. So there really are impacts. Clogging of the recycle system. So when you package your stuff up and it ends up in the recycling stream, somebody tried to do the right thing, that jams up the recycling plant. It's hundreds of dollars an hour when it's down. At the end of the day, that ends up costing all of us. When they have to shut down and they can't process, their costs go up. That gets passed on through us. Now, granted, if it's 1 hour and it's a couple $100, you're not going to necessarily notice that, but over time, these things do add up. They end up in the storm drains. We already clean out our storm drains, but when they get clogged with more and more stuff, you have to clean them out more often. And then the bottom 3 pictures on the left of the slide, those were all bags out of the many that were found on the townwide cleanup that day. And I look at it this way: when your community is littered, it doesn't look good. It's a negative image. It doesn't look good for the people of town or the businesses in town. And then we're leaving these things out to impact the environment, in terms of wildlife and other people affected by that. So the health impact, you've all seen the pictures of the animals getting caught up with plastic and all of these horrible things. Those are real, but that's not really what I'm here to kind of scare anybody into. The bags, along with tons of other plastic, make it into the waterways. The problem with the bags is because they're so thin, they're meant to be used once. These sit out in the waterways, the water, the sun, the waves, the UV rays eat away at these things. They break down the bags. Here's the problem: when you don't see them anymore, you think the problem is gone, but it's not. The plastic didn't disappear. It just broke up into a problem that is really becoming evident today, are microplastics in the waterways. And what they're now finding is this is ending up in fish. So as you eat fish, I forget what the stat is, but if you eat a significant amount of fish, there's a measurable amount of plastic that they can find in your body. It's not all plastic bags. The problem with the plastic bags is that they break down quicker and faster in that environment, and then you perceive that there's nothing there. So what I really want to get at is that they do impact us, not necessarily positively. They're convenient, but they impact the environment, our health, our community, our tax dollars when cleanouts start costing more money. And so many of our neighboring towns, including our state capital, have managed to enact a restriction on these bags. I think the Chelmsford citizens can do that as well. So with a yes vote, we can make a positive impact on our community, more importantly, for the generations to come. Thank you. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to add, or questions from the board?
That's the warrant.
It's the last one. Save the best for last.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, a couple quick things. 2 things in my report. The first one is the Green Communities Competitive Grant Award. Melissa Joyce, our sustainability manager, is here, as well as Gary Persichetti, her direct supervisor. And we've got good news on a grant award from Department of Energy Resources on the Green Communities Division on a competitive grant award. If you just got a couple slides real quick.
Real fast, promise. So I would also like to take this opportunity to introduce myself and I'm excited to be here in Chelmsford. And let's see, you have them? Yeah, so I don't need to give you these. So really quick, the Green Communities grant is through Mass DEP, and in 2010, the program was initiated, and Chelmsford was one of the first cities and towns to join in to the Green Communities program. And the Green Communities grants help municipalities reduce their energy use and costs by implementing clean energy projects in buildings, facilities, and schools. This chart at the bottom here shows the amount of dollars since 2010 that have been granted to the town to encourage energy efficiency projects as well as renewable energy projects. You can see that there's also a bit of funding for Mass Save. And then all the way to the right are the annual cost savings for each of these types of projects. So you can see it's significant. Briefly, an overview, we've had several projects successfully completed through the grant, from photovoltaics to rooftop unit replacements, expansions of BAS energy management systems, LED lighting, retro commissioning, a number of really important initiatives that have been funded through this grant awards. For the 2019 round, we applied for several projects. The ones in gray, unfortunately, we did not receive, but we are working on finding ways around so that we can continue to do some of that good work. The projects that are highlighted in green at the bottom are the ones that we receive funding for, $90,497 to expand the building automation system at the police department so that we can control the HVAC system there. And weatherization efforts at the town hall to increase the efficiency of the building skin. So the next steps, we are quickly beginning the process to complete the work on these projects. They have to be complete by January in order for us to be eligible for the next round of funding. We're also going to continue to identify avenues to partially match grants as we move into the next grant cycle so that we're more competitive. And then we're also going to apply for alternative incentives through the utility to complete the non-award projects, which have pretty significant and short, happy payback periods and return on investments. So that's the quick and dirty. Thank you so much, and hopefully we'll be back with more good news soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then the final thing under my report is status report on the Billerica Road, River Neck Road intersection improvements. You see the letter dated from Mass DOT dated September 9th, although we didn't receive it till the 16th. Basically, they're set to go on the intersection improvement. As you note in the letter, the project expected to complete within 703 calendar days. This is, again, the work at River Neck and Billerica Road, including the culvert. Anything, you heard anything more on that, Steve? That project is, it's been, I think they're just ready to go now at this point.
Yeah.
Since you stayed around, Steve, I don't want you
I don't want to
Steve's been obviously shepherding this project through its works.
Yeah, so at this point, the project's in Mass DOT's hands, so we're kind of out of, I mean, I'll still be in the loop a little bit, but they handle construction and all that at this point. Yeah, the 703-day thing's a little crazy. If they go 704, what happens? But usually what goes on now is they'll be scheduling pre-construction hearing, so they put all the, like, fire chief, police chief, we all go to DOT, meet the construction team. They set up their schedules and stuff. They'll have a field office, and then usually shortly after that, they'll start mobilization. So we haven't heard anything on a pre-construction meeting at this point, but I would assume that would be coming shortly.
Great, thank you. Okay, that's my report, Mr. Chairman. I just have 3 appointments for you this evening. William Sparks to the CCA Advisory Committee for a 1-year term ending June 30th, 2020, and to the Cultural Council, William Sparks, Also, they are for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2022, and Ann Dumke for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2022.
Make a motion to approve the town manager's appointments as presented.
I'll second.
A motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, 10. Item 10 here, discussion of town legal counsel. Anybody want to start that?
So are we doing this evening?
Yeah, I don't have a problem pushing this off, to be honest.
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll move that off.
What, you are going to move it up? What did you say?
I said I don't have a problem pushing it off to the next meeting.
Oh, I thought we were going to do it tonight. Are we not going to do it tonight? That's my question.
It's up to the board.
Do what?
We still have an executive session to go through as well.
Bless you.
And I'm allergic to it.
I don't know, is there a reason that we would put it off? I guess would be my question. I think if we're going to go to a different counsel firm, it would be better to do it sooner rather than later. If we put it off till our next meeting, that would be just 2 weeks before town meeting, which would give limited time for somebody new to get up to speed.
We only have one applicant though, right?
Apparently. Is there a reason?
Do we put it out there for other people, or?
Yeah, I had asked Paul to submit something. He didn't get it in for Thursday, so he didn't, he wanted the option to have a little, until the next meeting.
I thought when we left this last, we were going to provide the opportunity for our existing councils to give input, and that we were going to go out, if we were going to start looking outside of that, we were going to look at more than one candidate outside.
I had no intention of voting.
I didn't know we were pushing a vote tonight until about 2 hours before this meeting.
And Paul,
So-
when I had requested the bills, I think I had also asked additionally for them to be tallied by issue.
Oh, then we can ask the law firms to do that. We have the monthly bills. We don't. They're detailed, but we don't have the ability to gather them by issue other than to manually do it. If you want issues tallied by subject matter, we can ask the respective firms to do that.
Yeah, if we could.
Okay, because what Darlene provided for you was the aggregate over the last 4 fiscal years, and it's been pretty constant, as you can see from the data that was supplied in your packet. But if you want by subject matter, then I can ask the firms to send that.
I'd like to see it that way
Okay.
too. Thank you.
Minutes? Is that what you're gonna go on?
Well, I think we're going to have to push it off, only because I know that's not too fair, but
Okay.
where we only have one offer on the table, we have one coming, and if the intent is to get a third option, then we'll have to solicit that for the next meeting.
Okay.
Any preference from anybody on who else we ask? All right. Paul, will you be able to recommend a third one possibly?
Sure, if we can.
Yep. All right. All right, that brings us to meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion that we recommend the regular meeting minutes for June 17th as presented.
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Make a motion that we approve the regular meeting minutes for July 8th, 2019 as presented.
Second.
We have motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
And I make a motion that we approve and release the executive session meeting minutes for September 9th, 2019.
Second.
Is that an individual
You don't
vote?
have yours.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't have those.
Yeah, because these were executive
Yep.
session.
So, was I at that one, though?
No.
No.
All right.
You want
We have
just
motion
an
and
aye?
second, all in favor?
We need a roll call or just a?
We can just,
You can vote not release it, but would.
well,
Already
no,
released it,
done.
we did
I
it
think this-
publicly anyway.
the motion was to release.
Right, okay, yeah, okay, right.
So we have motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay.
Selectmen liaison reports and referrals. Virginia?
Yeah, just a couple quick things. The Conservation Commission is going to move forward to address the dam condition at the Cranberry Bog, and they haven't made any decisions yet on the details. Also, the League of Women Voters asked me to remind the public that they and the library are hosting an informational presentation by Choice Mass on ranked choice voting. And that'll be this Wednesday, September 25th at 7 p.m. at the Chelmsford Public Library. If that's a subject you're interested in, there's more details on the library website.
All right, George?
No, I was gonna give a little rebuttal on, but I think I'll pass on the,
Pat?
open session.
Just a couple quick things. A couple of weeks ago, I attended the Firefighter Academy graduation, and where we had two recruits who graduated, Derek Hamilton and Scott Newcomb. So they are now full-time firefighters on the helping us out. So congratulations to Derek and Scott. And also want to mention about the Friends of the Library book sale, which was held this past weekend. They raised over $24,000, which was an amazing amount. They must have sold at least 50,000 books to raise that much money, because the books are very inexpensive. If you pay $1 for a book, you're paying a lot of money there. So thanks to everybody who donated books, and thanks to everybody who came and purchased books, and thanks to everyone who will then turn around and read those books and then donate them to be sold again next year. Thanks.
Emily?
I got to see the DPW building updated. They've completed their training room, which looks awesome. Like, the whole building just looks fantastic. It's very functional, very clean, obviously new, but I think it's going to be a really good space for them to work out of.
If you're gonna might as well compliment the high school, the part that was paved in that back area with the sprinkler systems, the trees, the grasses coming in, the whole thing looks fantastic. It's actually a pretty sharp complex now when you pull into the back of the high school. So job well done there to the DPW. Anyways, so that brings us to any press questions? There's no press left.
Press is gone.
Executive session?
Okay, so I'll make a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss strategy with respect to potential litigation regarding the Ledge Road commercial trucking, the Markham grinder pump litigation update, and to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the police superior officers, sergeants union, firefighters union, and the library employees union, not to return to open session.
Second.
A motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Gotta do a roll call for that
Aye.
one.
We're going.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.